I ascend to the throne of God with arcane magic. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151, Brotherhood of Eagle. However, it is not so easy for Mela to master the priesthood of fear. Since the fall of Tichondrius, the Lord of Fear in the Endless Abyss, no one has been able to fully master the priesthood of fear. After all, this is one of the few priesthoods that can be promoted to powerful gods. Many gods are eyeing the priesthood of fear, and Mela is just one of them. In addition to Mela, there are two gods of medium power in the Abyss alone who have entered the field of fear, and everyone wants to fully master the priesthood of fear. For those gods who want to master the priesthood of fear, they are enemies to each other, and will never give up the opportunity to target each other. The same is true for those righteous gods. They will not sit idly by and watch a powerful god with the priesthood of fear appear easily, let alone an evil god. Therefore, Mela's current situation is actually quite difficult. After all, he is far from being powerful among the gods with the priesthood of fear. This is also the reason why he took the risk and chose to be the first to end before the chaos tide of the Jaya world came. In his previous life, the arrangement and planning of Molir in Kangwang City were undoubtedly successful, but it is not certain now. Li Si has made up his mind that he must destroy the blood sacrifice ceremony of the Church of 10,000 Beasts. The lower city of Kangwang City is a very important part of Li Si's plan. He can't just sit back and watch the Church of 10,000 Beasts mess around. Now that he knows that the unrest in the lower city is caused by the Church of 10,000 Beasts, Li Si can use his memories of his previous life to dig out these people in advance bit by bit. Glancing at Mo Yun and Zua Zua who were looking around, Li Si also had a purpose in bringing them along. One is to let them broadcast the entire process of Li Si's actions live, shape him into an important figure in the plot, and increase his influence and appeal among the player group. The other is to cultivate some potential players in a targeted manner and guide the actions of the player group in this way. Li Si nodded. I'm really a planner. With Mo Yun and Zua Zua, Li Si came to Jinbei Lane, which is also the most famous special area in the lower city. This was originally Kudna's strength, but in the last riot, Marion killed all the vampires under Kudna, so this area has been quiet for a long time. The city guards and the Dawn Church blocked and controlled this place for a while. However, after the city guards and the Dawn Church withdrew, the business here became prosperous again. After all, the gold coins of the mercenaries who had nowhere to vent their energy were the easiest to earn. Kudna's power was eliminated, but the gangs would definitely not sit idly by and watch such a big piece of fat slip through their hands. From the information provided by Old Jack, Li Si knew that this place was occupied by another gang in the lower city, the Eagle Brotherhood, and the leader of this gang was the Death Eagle Tash. Does it look familiar? Yes, it is one of the three gang leaders secretly supported by the Church of 10,000 Beasts in Kangwang City. As a key point in the plan, the Church of 10,000 Beasts will definitely not let others occupy this area. Although Li Si knew that Golden Lily Lane was one of the three key points of the blood sacrifice ceremony of the Church of All Beasts, he was not sure where the means of the Church of All Beasts were hidden. But I think it must be the house where Marion and Kudna fought. Kudna must be guarding near the ceremony. Walking towards the location recorded in the intelligence, the players following Li Si couldn't help it, and their eyes kept wandering. Is this heaven? I declare that the game Shenqi is the light of my life and my belief in this life. This girl has big legs. No, her breasts are so long. What is Li Si doing here? Could it be he? Li Si, who has sharp hearing, ignored the group of funny people behind him. I don't know these weirdos who roll, scream, crawl and walk at all. Li Si walked towards the house that appeared in his sight. It was a house that looked quite gorgeous, if not for a whole wall that had been demolished. Standing outside the house and looking around, Li Si could see that this place had been patronized by enthusiastic people, and even a piece of furniture was gone. Just when he was about to go in and take a closer look, Li Si noticed that two strong men in black appeared in the alley on one side and walked towards him. Their impatient expressions and fierce faces were almost like writing "I'm here to cause trouble" on their heads. What are you guys doing? The two strong men blocked Lee Si and said viciously, as if they wanted to scare Lee Si and others away in this way. Nothing to do, just strolling around. Lee Si looked at the two with interest. Although the two men looked very powerful, Lee Si's perception told him that the two men were not even bronze level professionals. They just looked scary. Even with their well-trained bodies, their strength was at most equivalent to that of a level 5 warrior. Go somewhere else. This is the territory of our Eagle Brotherhood. The two men in black seemed to have noticed something. After all, Lee Si, or thin-looking young man, did not show any fear when facing them. Something was wrong. So the two wanted to scare Lee Si away with the name of the Eagle Brotherhood. After all, the Eagle Brotherhood was also a well-known gang in the downtown area. Lee Si's eyes lit up. If you say so, then I will not leave. Since the Eagle Brotherhood will send people to guard here, Lee Si is sure that there must be something wrong in this house. What if I don't leave? Lee Si said with a smile, and there was even some amusement on his face. The two strong men looked at each other. Although they felt that Lee Si was not easy to mess with, the boss's request was that no unrelated people should be allowed to enter the house, and they didn't dare to disobey. It seems that you have to suffer a little. The two men seemed to be ready to use force. Lee Si's mind moved, and a new task information popped up in front of Mo Yun and Zua Zua, who had been following Lee Si. Bronze level task, let him go, let me do it. Task requirements. There are two guys who don't know how to live or die and want to attack Lee Si Kane. This is the time to show our strength. Defeat them. Task reward. 3000 experience points, 1 gold coin. Lee Si's favorability +5. Without any hesitation, Mo Yun and Zua Zua immediately accepted the task. Are you kidding? The reward is so generous, just take it first. As for whether you can win, just fight first. Anyway, the players are not afraid of death. Mo Yun and Zua Zua are now in front of Lee Si, looking at the two black-clothed strong men in front of them fiercely. What do these two little bean sprouts want to do? The two people from the Eagle Brotherhood were stunned for a moment, but they still took action, intending to teach them a lesson first. Chapter 152, Silver Level Assassin. That's it? Mo Yun and Zua Zua had already obtained the information of the two black-clad strong men through investigation. Although they were not professionals, their attributes were much stronger than the two men, and it seemed that their fighting experience was definitely stronger than the two men. The two who were still blank were a little panicked. When the player was just born, all the attribute points were different according to the chosen career tendency, but the average value was 5. This was also the attribute point of an ordinary adult. Lee Si smiled. The task that Mo Yun and Zua Zua had just received was actually the one that Lee Si had just distributed to the two of them, which made them feel a little involved. However, Lee Si did not intend to let the two of them rush up and get beaten like this, which did not meet the requirements of the league training manual. Lee Si waved his right hand, and several magical lights fell on the two of them, and their system panels also refreshed the prompts. You gain the blessing of Kane's Birth magic, and you will get the following effects. After adjustment, Bear's Tenacity, second ring spell, your endurance attribute points increase by 30 points, time 10 minutes. Ox's Strength, second ring spell, your strength attribute points increase by 30 points, time 10 minutes. Cat's Grace, second ring spell, your agility attribute points increase by 30 points, time 10 minutes. Owl's Wisdom, second ring spell, your mystic attribute points increase by 30 points, time 10 minutes. Fox's Cunning, second ring spell, your intelligence attribute points increase by 30 points, time 10 minutes. Eagle's Majesty, second ring spell, your charm attribute points increase by 30 points, time 10 minutes. Stoneskin, fourth ring spell, your skin is as hard as rock, and you gain a higher level of resistance to physical damage, time 20 minutes. Gigi. This damn powerful spell directly multiplied the 6-dimensional attributes of Claw, and Mo Yun, directly reaching the level of bronze intermediate professionals. This is a boss. Isn't it a good game now? Claw clenched his fist and walked towards the two men in black with a grim smile. Even Mo Yun waved his fist and was eager to try. What's the point of the boss buffing himself? Beat, the harder the better. Mo Yun's live broadcast room was also in an uproar. Before Mo Yun followed Lee Si, someone had posted her live broadcast room on the player forum. It was also named NPC takes you to visit the Flower Street, but unexpectedly, Mo Yun enjoyed such a powerful buffing spell. This shocked those players whose basic attribute points were not yet 10. As the news spread, more and more people entered Mo Yun's live broadcast room, and more people also recognized Lee Si, the mysterious NPC powerhouse. Seeing Mo Yun and Claw beating the two men in black, Lee Si also had a smile on his face. This is the effect he wanted. Through some actions, he could subtly show his identity as a strong man and let more people know about Lee Si's existence. After taking a look at Mo Yun and Zua, Lee Si no longer cared. If he could lose, Lee Si would eat the emerald staff on the spot. Shaking his head, Lee Si turned around and said to the shadow in the corner on the other side, "Mr. Assassin, how long are you going to watch? If you don't come out, your men will die." Seeing that there was no movement, Lee Si smiled, condensed a blue fireball in his hand, and smashed it towards the corner. Suddenly, the shadow squirmed, and a middle-aged man in grey casual clothes suddenly appeared there, dodging Lee Si's blue ball technique. Looking at the entire wall destroyed by Lee Si's blue ball technique with some astonishment, the grey-clothed assassin said to Lee Si in a deep voice, "I'm just passing by, and have no intention of making an enemy of you. I will leave now." Without even fighting, the grey-clothed assassin felt the huge pressure brought to him by the smiling young mage in front of him. Although he was a silver level assassin, when he wanted to sneak past and attack Lee Si just now, his spiritual sense was frantically warning him, as if the young man in front of him was a terrifying monster. It shouldn't be like this. Why would he be so afraid of a mage? The grey-clothed assassin pondered in his heart, but he had already raised his vigilance to the highest level. He really couldn't figure out why a mage could find his position so easily. Obviously his aura has not reached the gold level yet. Lee Si was not in a hurry and looked like he was sure of victory. Or rather, he was sure of this silver assassin. Just now, as soon as Lee Si approached this area, he sensed the silver assassin through the shadow plane. As a mage, with the assassin profession expertise of Crown of Shadows, and after being trained by the legendary assassin Joyce, Lee Si could easily kill the grey assassin with only assassin skills. Of course, this is a good target that is delivered to the door, and it would be a shame to cooperate with the Eagle Brotherhood if he didn't show it. Seeing that Lee Si didn't move, the grey assassin carefully prepared to leave and saw Lee Si grinning at him. Several dark blue fireballs with terrifying heat waves flew towards his body. The grey assassin, who had just witnessed the terrifying crisis of this fireball, naturally didn't dare to directly resist it. He dodged and his figure twisted and appeared in the shadow not far away. Assassin's secret skill, forced escape. It looks similar to the shadow jump used by Old Jack, but there is a big difference. It is just a forced burst skill used to escape, and the teleportation distance is very short. The grey assassin's face turned pale, and he didn't even look back, preparing to sneak away directly. Lee Si would naturally not let him go. The stage for the performance was already set up, so how could he let the performers leave? Lee Si took out the emerald staff and smashed it heavily on the ground. 5-ring spell Mirage. This spell is very special. It can form a special domain. It has no effect in the core area of the domain, but it will form an illusory bubble at the boundary of the domain, and any perception and vision will be confused. Therefore, this skill is often used by mages as a control skill. Lee Si used this skill to restrict the silver assassin, making him unable to perceive the situation outside the domain, and naturally he could not use various skills to leave the scene. To be honest, it would be easy for Lee Si to defeat this silver assassin, and he didn't need to use Mirage at all. But at the same time, if he defeated it too easily and didn't show the strength of the grey assassin, how could he establish a strong image of Lee Si among the players? Lee Si smiled and said, "Mr. Silver Assassin, I still have something to ask you. Don't leave in a hurry." Mo Yun and Zua, who were standing by, had already beaten the two black-clothed burly men to the ground. They noticed that they were covered by a colorful, illusory, 300 square meter semicircular cover. When they heard Lee Si's voice, they immediately turned around and looked at the grey-clothed man standing opposite Lee Si. Is this extremely dangerous, a silver level assassin? That's it? Why does he feel so much worse than Lee Si? He has a legendary talent and is still so strong. Lee Si is really the protagonist. Chapter 153 Easily Crush. In the lower city of Kangwang City, Golden Lily Lane. Shrouded in the colorful magic mirage, the grey assassin looked at Lee Si with a gloomy face. He was just spying secretly, but he ended up in such a big trouble. I really don't know why Boss Tash arranged him to come and watch this house. Lee Si didn't care what the grey assassin was thinking. For him, the appearance of the Eagle Brotherhood in this place can already explain a lot of things. Without saying much nonsense, Lee Si raised his staff lightly, and a second ring spell, Spiderweb, flew towards the grey assassin's body. The grey assassin also knew that it was a critical moment and he must not let Lee Si restrict his movements. His body suddenly flashed to the left front, dodged the spiderweb, and rushed to Lee Si's side. As an assassin, before breaking through the gold level and establishing a connection with the shadow plane, he almost had no long-range killing skills. In order to defeat the young mage in front of him, the grey-clothed assassin knew that only by fighting desperately in close combat could he have a chance to survive. Even though his spiritual sense had been frantically warning him to stay away, he could not care about it at this moment. Lee Si looked at the grey-clothed assassin who was sprinting towards him at a very fast speed with a calm face. The grey-clothed assassin, who was like a residual image in the eyes of Mo Yun and others, was as clear as slow motion in his eyes. Really, too rough. Lee Si, who had been trained by a legendary assassin, murmured, "It's time to show real skills." Lee Si retracted the staff in his hand and took out a short-handled dagger that flashed with cold light in the shocked expressions of Claw and Mo Yun, and made a standard assassin's preparatory action. He held the dagger in his right hand, leaned over, bent his knee slightly, and his whole body was tense like a cheetah, ready to go. The grey-clothed assassin who rushed towards Lee Si looked at Lee Si in disbelief. What is he going to do? Isn't he a mage? He, a silver mage, is now going to fight me in close combat, and he is using an assassin's weapon, a dagger. But at this critical moment, the grey assassin had no time to think. Halfway through the sprint, the grey assassin's figure flashed and disappeared from Lee Si's sight. Assassin's combat skill, Speedy Assault. Assassin's combat skill, Stealth. For professionals with insufficient perception, the assassin's stealth skill is one of the most troublesome and tricky skills. They can't find any traces of their attacks at all, which is equivalent to only being able to respond passively in battle. Of course, for those with high perception who can detect the traces of assassins, it is much easier to deal with them. Not to mention Lee Si, who has a high affinity with the shadow plane and can easily find the figure of the grey assassin. Didn't I find you in stealth just now? You still dare to play stealth in front of me? Lee Si said with a smile, revealing a sense of ease and confidence in his words. Stealth is the biggest reliance of assassins, but it is also a kind of restraint. They cannot use other abilities while maintaining stealth, so assassins in the stealth process are quite vulnerable. The dagger in Lee Si's hand turned nimbly and slashed towards the air in front of his left. Clang! The sound of sharp blades colliding rang out of thin air, and the figure of the grey-clothed assassin holding a dagger emerged in mid-air, retreating in the direction of the start at a faster speed. The grey-clothed assassin felt that half of his body was paralyzed and looked at Lee Si with unbelievable eyes. He found him so easily? After just one fight, he found that Lee Si was not only as fast as him, an assassin specializing in agility, but also far more powerful than him. Not to mention that he was dressed as a noble mage, and the spells covering this area alone looked very impressive. When did Kangwang City produce such a person? As for Mo Yun and Zua, who were watching the battle on the side, they also looked shocked, as if they had opened the door to a new world. So this is how the mage in this game is played? Lee Si didn't say much. The dagger turned nimbly between Lee Si's hands and walked towards the grey-clothed assassin very naturally. So, can you tell me what Tash asked you to do here? After all, this grey assassin was Tash's subordinate and might know some secrets. Lee Si didn't mind asking more. The grey assassin gritted his teeth. Half of his body had just recovered from the paralysis. His whole body was in pain, as if he had been hit by a wild bull. This also made him lose the courage to continue to resist. Lowering his head, the grey assassin said, "Respected sir, Boss Tash asked me to keep an eye on this house. If there is a special person coming, notify him immediately. So, did you pass the information to Tash?" Lisi asked, now in front of the grey assassin. The grey assassin felt very uncomfortable. When did a wizard of the same level dare to stand in front of him without protection like this? But he still said honestly, "No, you found me when I was about to leave." The grey assassin concealed his intention to attack Lisi. Now he just wanted to survive. Eagle Brotherhood. What is that? As long as he can leave alive, as a silver level assassin, he can enjoy the best of everything. This is the idea of professionals active in the grey area. I only told you to pay attention to the house. Did I say anything else? For example, pay attention to where and what in this house? Lisi asked. If it was just that, it would not be clear enough. The grey-clothed assassin thought about it and shook his head. Lisi looked at him with disdain. He knew all this, so what's the use of you? As if sensing Lisi's murderous intention, the grey-clothed assassin hurriedly said, "Sir, I know other news. This is the previous base of the vampire Kudna. Tash has been here before, but he has been here many more times in the past 3 months." Oh. Lisi waved his hand to remove the mirage barrier and turned to look at Kudna's house. So the blood sacrifice ceremony should be arranged in the house, prepared for a long time, and it is not convenient to move, so these people were arranged to guard it. But the blood sacrifice ceremony is so important, so let a silver level assassin and 2 ordinary people guard it? Is it such a joke? Or are there other backup plans? Lisi pondered in his heart, and couldn't help but be alert. The grey-clothed assassin looked at the thoughtful Lisi with some fear. Even if the surrounding mirage barrier was removed, he didn't dare to leave secretly. Stealth skills are useless in front of this man. He feels that Lisi can kill him if he is a little more serious. "My lord, please spare me once. I'm willing to serve you." The grey-clothed assassin thought for a long time and finally uttered such a sentence. Lisi asked, turned his head to look at the grey-clothed assassin, and said with a smile, "You betrayed so easily? Tash can let you go?" "My lord, in fact, he has always disliked me, otherwise he would not have given me such a hard job." The grey-clothed assassin couldn't help but bend down and said respectfully, "Today, the author who got off work is typing. Chapter 154, The Secret Room Behind the Flipping Door." Lisi glanced at the grey assassin in front of him, and he was a little interested. After all, although Joyce was there, the Kane family guards, led by Welf, were all a bunch of fools. It would be nice to recruit an assassin. After all, he was a talent. It would be nice to let him guard the gate of the White Dove Chamber of Commerce. However, the first problem was to ensure that the silver assassin would not betray him. After all, he must have done this kind of thing before, seeing how skilled he was. Lisi nodded and asked, "What's your name?" The grey assassin hurriedly replied, "My lord, my name is Lister." Lisi smiled, took out the emerald staff again, tapped Lister's forehead, and said, "Don't move." Then, a faint white light lit up on the emerald staff and slowly entered Lister's body. Lister's body tensed up, feeling that something bad was happening, but he soon relaxed and gave up resistance. Survival is more important than anything else. 6-ring spell, enchantment badge. This spell was also not long ago mastered by Lisi, but the effect is also quite powerful. This spell is a bit like bewitching humans, but enchantment badge can work on stronger professionals. Plant an emblem in the target's body, and through constant suggestion, the recipient will be loyal to the spell user from the bottom of his heart. Such a powerful spell naturally has its shortcomings. The first is that it cannot control those with strong minds, and the recipient cannot resist during the use of the spell. Second, once the recipient's strength exceeds that of the user, the emblem in his body will be automatically removed. Third, there is a limit on the number of uses. Lisi can now only control up to 3 professionals whose strength is not higher than his. Therefore, the conditions for using enchantment badge are still quite harsh. This is Fran Stevens' original spell, and the Dean also told Lisi not to spread this spell at will. After all, the effect of this spell is really terrifying. Seeing that the emblem had been successfully implanted in Lister's body, Lisi nodded and said, "My name is Lisi Kane. You will stay in the White Dove Chamber of Commerce from now on." Lister's eyes lit up. The White Dove Chamber of Commerce has been very active in the lower city recently. The Eagle Brotherhood has naturally investigated and found out that the actual controller of the White Dove Chamber of Commerce is the Viscount Arcane, who is now very popular in the capital. From this point of view, it seems not bad. It has a much better future than the Eagle Brotherhood. Lister stood up silently and consciously stood behind Lee Si. I don't know if it was his real thought or the effect of the enchantment emblem. Mo Yun and Zua stared at Lee Si's performance in amazement. It was so simple that a silver level assassin became Lee Si's subordinate. Could Lee Si be a gold level strongman? Ignoring Lister, who had abandoned the dark and joined the light, Lee Si walked towards the former stronghold of Kudna. As soon as he entered the door, Lee Si found that the house looked ordinary on the outside, but the decoration inside was quite luxurious. Expensive cedar furniture and exquisite red carpets are rare even in the homes of nobles in Kangwang City, but unfortunately they are now covered with dust. It is estimated that these furniture are too large to be taken away, or they were taken away by others like other things. Lee Si looked around and asked List behind him, has the Eagle Brotherhood arranged for someone to send things to the house? Probably not. I haven't seen it in the few days I've been here. Lee Si nodded and looked around carefully. He had a hunch that the secret of the blood sacrifice ceremony should be hidden somewhere in this house. But when Lee Si checked the whole house, he didn't find anything unusual. Lee Si looked around in confusion and finally said helplessly, it seems that there is nothing unusual here. I guess I guessed wrong. After that, he left with List and Claw Claw. Claw Claw and Mo Yun were still wondering, while Lee Si seemed to be a little anticlimactic, and then they saw Lee Si, who had already walked to the alley, stopped and looked back at the house just now. There was no doubt and loss in his expression just now. He was about to laugh. Okay. Lee Si was in a really good mood. He found something wrong as soon as he approached the basement, but he still pretended to find nothing. The 7-ring spell, flip door. This is the spell that Lee Si found on the door of Kudna's basement just now. This spell is very strange. It can only be used on the door of the only exit of the secret room. If the outsider does not use a specific spell to remove the curse, but directly opens the door, he will only see an ordinary room set up in advance, not the secret room hidden by the flip door. This is also a very rare, but very practical hidden spell. It stands to reason that the magic fluctuations of flip door are extremely weak and difficult to be discovered. But Lee Si is an arcane master. He realized that flip door was cast here as soon as he saw the basement door. This was achieved by the rich experience of the previous life and the keen elemental perception of the arcane master in this life. Even a gold wizard cannot do it as easily and casually as Lee Si. However, Lee Si remained calm after the incident. He checked the ordinary room after the flip door, as usual, and pretended to be quite disappointed, and left the house. After approaching the flip door, Lee Si felt that he was being watched. It should be the strong man hiding behind the flip door. At least he is a gold level. Well, the target is determined. It is enough for Lee Si to find a secret place of the Church of 10,000 Beasts. With the style of the Church of 10,000 Beasts, the other two places must be hidden more secretly, and Lee Si will definitely not be able to find them in a short time. Now, let's find someone to raid the Church of 10,000 Beasts. Behind the flip door, in the secret room, Petal stood quietly in the darkness, but he was relieved in his heart. Sure enough, this mage did not find the secret room like the city guards before. Think about it, a group of gold level people have no weapons. How can they see through the 7-ring spell? Petal was relieved and silent for a moment. He felt that this was just a minor setback and nothing special, so he decided not to tell Kaiser. Shaking his head, Petal sat down on a chair beside him and looked ahead quietly. The only thing that could make him, who had a hot temper, so honest was the long-planned grand plan of the Church of all Beasts. Scarlet blood kept flowing on the floor of the empty secret room, forming a hideous and bloody ritual array, which was extremely evil and a bit weird. Beside the array were the magical beasts in a coma, and there were already more than 100 of them. Soon, Petter murmured, as if to comfort himself, soon I won't have to be so patient anymore. Chapter 155 Beavis of the Golden Lions. Lee Si looked at the small house not far away, smiled, and said to List who was following behind him, "You hide here, and keep an eye on that house from a distance. No matter who comes in or out, write it down for me. Do you understand?" "Yes, Lord Lee Si," List answered decisively, but his heart was in chaos. "I was asked to keep an eye on that house in the Eagle Brotherhood, and now I'm still keeping an eye on that house after joining Lord Lee Si. Am I really only qualified to stand guard and keep an eye on it?" Lee Si ignored List and walked out with Claw and Mo Yun. As for the group of players who followed Lee Si just now, they had been seduced away by the group of young ladies in Jin Bailey Lane. "Who is Lee Si? I don't know him." Their essence is to always refuse gambling and drugs. The first destination was quite far away, and Lee Si took the two of them to go there in a carriage. That was the headquarters of the Golden Lion Knights in Kangwang City. Lee Si had no intention of going to the city guards at all. The city guards of Kangwang City could only maintain order in the city and catch petty thieves. The entire city guard has only one gold level warrior. Let them raid the home of the Church of All Beasts. Forget it. So Lee Si went straight to the Golden Lion Corps, the strongest force of the Kingdom of Fez in Kangwang City. Just approaching, Lee Si was stopped by two fully armed guards. Judging from their aura, they were already professionals. All the soldiers of the Golden Lion Knights were carefully selected by the kingdom from various armies, and all the soldiers are formal professionals. In other words, the strength of the soldiers of the Golden Lion Corps is at least bronze level, and there are more than a dozen gold level warriors. In addition, Beavis Milliner, who is known as the strongest warrior in the kingdom, and has the reputation of the Guardian Lion of Fez, is in charge. Such a strong army can only be cultivated with the wealth and strength of the Kingdom of Fez, and it is also one of the trump cards of the kingdom. Lee Si looked at the silent guard standing in front of him, nodded and said, "I'm the Court Viscount Lee Si Kane. I need to see Captain Milliner for an urgent matter. Please let me know." Hearing that Lee Si was a Viscount, the expressions of the two guards finally changed a little. After exchanging glances, one guard put away his weapon and walked into the garrison, while the other guard remained standing guard. Zua and Mo Yun stood aside in silence, feeling a little uneasy. To be honest, they had always lived in peacetime and had never seen such a murderous elite force. Mo Yun felt that the guard looked at her as if he was looking at a dead person. Not long after, a young man in silver armor hurried out of the garrison. After seeing Lee Si, he looked at him for a few times and then extended his hand enthusiastically, saying, "Hello, Lord Viscount Kane. We meet again. The captain is waiting for you." I don't know what to call you." Lee Si was a little curious. He didn't have any thoughts about the handsome young man in front of him. "I'm sorry for the intrusion," the young soldier said with a smile. "I'm Herbert Bow, and I'm now the captain of the first squad of the Golden Lion Legion. The last time I met you was at the royal party a few days ago. You and that lady were so charming." Lee Si was a little embarrassed when he heard this. To be honest, Lee Si's dancing was not very good that day. He was led by Dua throughout the party, and he accidentally stepped on Jana several times, which made the little girl roll her eyes at him several times. After touching his nose, Lee Si turned his head and told Zua and Mo Yun to wait outside. He followed Herbert into the Golden Lion Legion station. "Is Captain Milliner here?" Lee Si asked Herbert beside him. "The captain was just exercising, and he asked me to come and greet you when he heard you were here," Herbert replied. As the captain of the first squad, he usually follows Beavis and has the equivalent of a secretary to the captain. Looking at him like this, he should also be the son of a noble family in Kangwang City. Lee Si nodded, followed Herbert through two doors, and came to a wide field. Looking at the soldiers training and the weapons and equipment on display, it should be the training place of the Golden Lion Knights. Lee Si's eyes quickly noticed where Beavis Milliner was. There was no other reason, but the momentum of this golden warrior was too amazing. His naked upper body was covered with hideous scars, and his muscles were sharp and angular, as if he contained infinite power. At this time, Beavis also noticed Lee Si on the sidelines. He put down the two-handed sword in his hand, took the towel handed over by the waiter, wiped the sweat off his body, put on casual clothes, and walked towards Lee Si. "Hello, Captain Milliner." Lee Si bowed to Beavis, but Beavis did not respond, just looked Lee Si up from top to bottom. What's going on? Lee Si stood up and noticed the strange look in Beavis' eyes, but was almost choked by his first sentence. Boy, I will not be good for ya in the future. Be careful, I will beat you. Even if you are the disciple of the adult. Beavis naturally knew that he was in the palace party. He saw Taya holding Lee Si's arm at the palace party last time and almost shattered the wine glass. The fake boy looks like a disciple. If Lee Si had been accepted as a disciple by the inflammation of the ruling line on the side. Entering a slightly rough reception room, Beavis leaned on the sofa and asked, "What's the matter? Can you tell me now?" Lee Si sat down on the sofa opposite Beavis, pondered for a moment and said, "Lord Mernal, have you heard of the Church of 10,000 Beasts? HMM. Beavis' face became a little serious when he heard the name and asked, "This is a church of evil gods, but few people have discovered their traces. How did you know?" Lee Si organized his words and narrated his discovery in Golden Lily Lane to Beavis, emphasizing the layout of the basement and the golden strongman hidden in it. "According to the knowledge I got from Teacher Stevens, the Church of 10,000 Beasts should have arranged a blood sacrifice ceremony there." Lee Si's face was serious, and he said it as if he had seen it with his own eyes. He was not worried. Anyway, that was the fact. Beavis had a gloomy face, and at this moment he had sat up straight and thought there. "How sure are you?" 100%. "I suspect that the other party may be trying to invite the incarnation of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts in this blood sacrifice ceremony, so I will tell Teacher Stevens later." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156. The plan is set. Beavis glanced at Lee Si, the incarnation of a god and an evil god. The ceremony was held in Kangwang City. What did this evil god want to do? I don't know how you found out. This news is too shocking. There was no trace of smile on Beavis's face at this time. His face was serious, and his right hand knocked on the wooden armrest of the sofa again and again, making a trembling sound. The purpose of these evil god churches is always so simple and direct, to cause panic and promote the terror and greatness of evil gods. As for how many people will lose their lives, this is not what they consider. It can even be said that killing is a pleasant thing for these crazy people. "Can you take me there to take a look?" Beavis looked at Lee Si, and there was no trace of the gentleness he had just shown to the younger generation in his eyes, only endless murderous intent. As the leader of the Golden Lion Knights, Beavis, who was entrusted by His Majesty the King to defend the capital, could not tolerate the conspiracy of these evil god believers to cause unrest in Kangwang City. Lee Si shook his head and said affirmatively, "It's difficult, Lord Millen. There should be a gold level strongman hidden in that secret room." I pretended not to notice anything unusual and didn't alarm him. "If you go, you will definitely alarm him. I think these evil god believers must not have only this one plan. There are even similar secret rooms in other places in the lower city. Once he is alarmed and the news is passed on, it will be troublesome. What do you think?" Beavis thought about it and felt that Lee Si's consideration was right, so he planned to listen to the ideas of Viscount Kane first. "We must take action, but there is no guarantee that this gold level strongman will pass the news on. Besides, I think it's better for him to pass the news on to other people in the Church of 10,000 Beasts," Lee Si said seriously, looking at Beavis closely. "Well, what do you say?" Beavis's face relaxed a little. He didn't think Lee Si was joking. The evil god cultists must have several other deployments in Kangwang City, but we don't know where the other ones are. Lee Si paused and continued, "Then we might as well make a move to alert the enemy. As long as we make arrangements in advance, I believe we can minimize the kingdom's losses." This is also what Lee Si thought of when he figured out the plan of the Church of 10,000 Beasts. Lee Si didn't know that the other two deployments of the Church of 10,000 Beasts were on Mingsu Street and Fasay Street in the lower city, but he didn't know the location of the two secret rooms. If a large-scale search was carried out, it would undoubtedly tell those people in the Church of 10,000 Beasts that the kingdom had noticed something was wrong. It would be better to prepare and forcibly suppress the blood sacrifice ceremony of the Church of 10,000 Beasts. As the capital of the Kingdom of Feast, the kingdom is undoubtedly much stronger than the Church of 10,000 Beasts in Kangwang City. Otherwise, why would the Church of 10,000 Beasts be so cautious? In this case, it is better to crush them directly. You are right. Beavis was silent for a moment and found that Lisi's proposal was indeed the best way to deal with it. Moreover, the Church of All Beasts can prepare the blood sacrifice ceremony at this time. I suspect they may want to take action during the sacrifice festival. Lisi was lying with his eyes open. In his previous life, the Church of All Beasts prepared for a long time after the sacrifice festival before taking action. Lisi also had his considerations. After all, it seems that the plan of the Church of All Beasts has changed because of Merian's intrusion. Who knows what those people will do? It is better to solve it as soon as possible. However, what Lisi said sounded very likely to be this. Those evil god believers dare not do anything. For them, the greater the influence, the better. There is no time to hesitate. Beavis stood up from the sofa and said viciously, "Boy, I will trust you this time. I will go to the palace to report to His Majesty and mobilize the elite forces of Kangwang City to enter the lower city. I want to see what kind of storm the Church of 10,000 Beasts can stir up." Lisi nodded and reminded, there is also the Dawn Church. Among the churches of the gods in Kangwang City, only the Dawn Church is the most powerful, with a legendary pastor and the Dawn Paladin group stationed in the Dawn Cathedral. Beavis nodded, this is for sure. He doesn't need to waste his words to attack the evil god church. The group of white robes will definitely rush to the front. I will notify the Dawn Church and the Lord, Flame of Judgment. I will go to the teacher later, but I guess the teacher will not take action before the evil god incarnation appears. Lisi understood what Beavis meant and nodded in agreement. Okay. Beavis felt much more stable now. After all, there was no doubt about the strength of that person. After confirming, Beavis did not try to persuade them to stay. After all, time was already tight, and there were still 3 days until the festival of the sacrifice. If the situation was not properly handled, and the evil god really came during the festival of the sacrifice, then things would be really serious. Beavis and Lisi came out of the knight's station together, said hello, and hurriedly rode towards the palace. Lisi did not delay, and took Claw and Mo Yun to the Feast Royal School of Magic. Lisi asked them to wait outside the first magic workshop, and then he walked into the workshop. Claw and Mo Yun looked at the stone door of the workshop in surprise, which closed after Lisi entered. Automatic door. A bit like that. I didn't expect that there would be such a thing in this medieval style game. After all, there is magic. The two discussed, and did not feel bored at all. Although there was no actual game, it was equivalent to taking them to open a new map. Many places were only eligible for entry for players who reached a certain level of strength and status. They were really eye-opening. After Lisi told Fran about the Church of All Beasts, the expression of the legendary wizard was very relaxed. Are those evil gods also restless? What is going to happen? Fran sat aside with a smile, seemingly not taking the Lord of All Beasts who might descend into the world seriously at all. Seeing Lisi's puzzlement, Fran said, you haven't reached that level yet, so you naturally don't know. Restricted by the rules of the Jaya world, the true bodies of those gods cannot descend into the main world. Similarly, even if they spend a huge price to send down the incarnation of the gods, the strength of the incarnation will be severely limited, and at most it will be no more than the peak of demigod. As for the incarnation of the Lord of All Beasts, it barely has the strength of a demigod. But, demigods are not necessarily stronger than legends. For example, me, haha. Flame of Judgment waved his hand and said with a smile, I know about it. I will keep an eye on it. You can also participate. After all, the methods of those evil god believers are very special. It will be good for you to gain more experience in the future. Chapter 157 Golden Legend. Coming out of the first magic workshop, Lisi saw Zua and Mo Yun standing upright beside him. These two guys should think the same as he does, right? Lisi calmly walked to the two of them and said with a smile, thank you for your hard work today. The matter of the lower city district has already been figured out. Huh. Zua and Mo Yun looked at each other in bewilderment. There is already a clue. Why does it feel like they and Lee Si are just rushing on the road, and there are only some twists and turns in the matter of the silver assassin, and it seems that nothing else has been done. Lee Si did not explain to them in detail, which would be embarrassing. Well, we will see the result tomorrow. If you want to come, you can also wait for me at the White Dove Chamber of Commerce tomorrow. Zua and Mo Yun found that the completion rate of their silver level task, Hidden Crisis in the lower city district, had just jumped to 10%, so they naturally nodded repeatedly and would not miss this opportunity to get a free task from the NPC. Mo Yun bravely asked Lee Si, "Master Lee Si, can I ask what place that was just now?" Lee Si turned his head to look at the place where Mo Yun pointed, pretending to be indifferent, and said, "Oh, that's my teacher's first magic workshop. I just went to see Teacher Stevens." Oh. Mo Yun nodded repeatedly after getting the answer and kept this information in mind, ready to consult it carefully on the player forum later. Lee Si sent the two back to Jeddo Street and left. The two of them learned skills with the experience points they got from beating the black-clothed strongman to complete the task. Claw chose to learn the basic skills of the mage, while Mo Yun chose to learn the basic skills of the hunter. Claw thought that Lee Si's Mirage spell just now was quite powerful and handsome, and he had also chosen the mage talent before. As for Mo Yun, she wanted to be a hunter from the beginning to the end, not for anything else, just because hunters can raise babies. After Lee Si returned home, he immediately found Joyce and told the legendary assassin about the Church of All Beasts. "Uncle Joyce, I wonder if the incarnation of the Lord of All Beasts God will be of any use to you." Joyce frowned and thought for a while, then said, "I'm not sure. The Lord of All Beasts possesses 3 priesthoods: beasts, fear, and hunting. Only the hunting divine power is useful to me. I wonder if the Lord of All Beasts will use the hunting priesthood as the core of this incarnation." "I see. Tomorrow, right? I'll pay attention then." Lee Si was a little surprised and asked directly, "Didn't you tell me last time that it would be very troublesome to directly digest the divine power of the gods who have not fallen? Then this?" Joyce didn't care and patiently explained to Lee Si, "It is indeed a lot of trouble to digest these divine powers, but my purpose is not to obtain these divine powers, but to experience the hunting priesthood contained in them. This is of great benefit to those who want to be familiar with and master similar fields and priesthoods. Also, sometimes some special items in the field of hunting priesthood require relevant divine powers to awaken and activate. It is helpful to master some in advance." Lee Si nodded and understood the power of the gods a little better. From this point of view, Teacher Fran Stevens should not have taken the path to becoming a god, while Uncle Joyce took the most orthodox path to becoming a god. Lee Si was not sure who was good and who was bad. This might be something he would consider only after he reached a similar realm. After a brief chat, Lee Si returned to his bedroom. For tomorrow's plan, Lee Si also needed to make some preparations in advance. Although he did not have to face the incarnation of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts, Lee Si was quite interested in the strong men of the Church of 10,000 Beasts. After Mo Yun and Zua said goodbye to each other, they came to the dormitory prepared by the White Dove Chamber of Commerce for their players. Mo Yun looked around and found that she was assigned a 1-story residential house with 2 bedrooms. It seemed that she should have a roommate, but now there was no one. The White Dove Chamber of Commerce is really thoughtful, otherwise I would worry about eating and resting, and I would worry about whether there would be problems when I went offline. Mo Yun nodded with some satisfaction. Although this room was quite simple and the wooden windows had several holes, it didn't matter to the players. It was just a fixed place to go offline. After binding the resurrection points to this house, Mo Yun lay on the bed and prepared to log off. After saying goodbye to the viewers, who had doubled in the live broadcast room, Mo Yun exited the game Shenqi consciously. Stretching hard, the beautiful figure outlined by the pink pajamas was quite attractive. Mo Yun rubbed his sore neck and sat in front of the computer. After thinking for a while, Mo Yun began to post in the player forum. One day with the mysterious NPC Lee Si. Lee Si is much stronger than the silver level assassin. So handsome. Lee Si is a mage, but he can use the assassin's special dagger, and he is also very strong in close combat. It seems to be consistent with the situation in his teaching skill panel. I learned the hunter skills from him. Lee Si later went to the Golden Lion Knights and the Fez Royal Magic Academy in Kangwang City. I couldn't get in without him. Lee Si's teacher is Stevens from the first magic workshop. Does anyone know him? Mo Yun, who doesn't like to make headlines, thought about it and posted her live video in the post as evidence. Mo Yun's post was just posted and there were many people commenting on it. Some of them were Mo Yun's live fans and the other part was just passing by. I don't eat beef. I watched the live broadcast, especially the part where he fought with the silver assassin. So handsome. Milk tea Momo. Is this the Malay mage? Love it. No game no life. Is that person really silver level? I watched the videos posted by others and I feel that a silver level person can beat 10 bronze level people. This is too exaggerated. Sewer Explorer. This Lee Si can't be a gold level NPC, right? If so, then he is the first confirmed gold level person in the game. Shenqi? Baba, I don't know if he is a gold level person, but he is really handsome. I want to give birth to a baby for him. Lu Yuan Ma Wang, the big brother upstairs. Please stop. Doghead Point JPG. A loving family. Stay away from my brother Lee Si. Mo Yun was a little speechless when she saw the crooked post. At this moment, she suddenly saw a new reply. Boil bones into soup. The first magic workshop. Stevens? I heard those mercenaries bragging in the mercenary guild that the only legendary master in Kangwang City is Fran Stevens from Feast Magic Academy. Could he be the one the poster is talking about? Lee Si's teacher is a legendary wizard? Mo Yun was a little surprised. Wouldn't Lee Si be a gold level? Looking at the skyrocketing number of live broadcast fans and the number of followers on the game forum, Mo Yun nodded with satisfaction. In that case, she must hold on to this golden legend. Chapter 158 The Eve of the War. The next day, Golden Lily Lane. Lee Si went to the Golden Lion Knights early in the morning. Last night, Beavis arranged for someone to come and inform Lee Si that everything was ready and they would start early the next morning. When Lee Si saw Beavis, he saw that the Golden Warrior was already wearing golden full body armor, and he looked majestic and serious like a lion with its fangs exposed. Beavis, who was now in the center of the garrison, did not notice Lee Si at all. His Majesty the King had given him full authority to deal with the Church of All Beasts this time, and he had to take responsibility for the responsibility on his shoulders. Hurry up, everyone assemble. Teams 1 to 3, follow me fully armed to Golden Lily Lane. Teams 4 to 10, follow Roy and Bell and enter the lower city according to yesterday's arrangement. Be careful not to alarm anyone. Yes, the soldiers of the Golden Lion Knights, who were dressed in full body armor, received the order in unison without any hesitation. This earth-shaking momentum was indeed worthy of being the first knight group in the kingdom. Odysseus, it's up to you to arrange the support for the Royal Mage Corps. Try to reduce civilian casualties as much as possible. Don't worry. Deputy Captain Odysseus nodded with a serious face. At this moment, he no longer had any thoughts of relaxing. Although the Mage Corps did not have to participate in the battle in advance, they also had a heavy burden on them. They needed to set up a barrier in time when the incarnation of the evil god descended to reduce the damage to civilians in the lower city. After receiving the reply, Beavis nodded and turned to look at the group of people on the other side. Although they were wearing ordinary civilian clothes of various colors, the fierce murderous aura on their bodies reflected their status as elite soldiers who had fought many battles. You are all my carefully selected subordinates, and there are also elite soldiers mobilized by His Majesty the King from other places, so I believe that you can complete the most difficult task. Wait, you will go directly to the lower city, disperse in teams of 3, and don't attract the attention of others. Once there is an abnormality in other areas outside the Golden Lily Lane, you must go up to me as soon as possible to buy time for the Golden Lion Knights to arrive. Do you understand everything? Yes. For His Majesty the King, for the City of Brilliant Light, kill those bastards of the Church of 10,000 Beasts in the sewers of the lower city. Yes. Although Beavis had already determined all the arrangements and passed them down yesterday, Beavis still chose to gather everyone before setting off to boost morale in this way. After all, what they might face later might be the incarnation of the evil god, and only courage and will are the only way to resist the pressure of the evil god. Watching the teams of people marching towards the lower city according to the arrangements, Beavis turned around and saw Lisi waiting on the side. "Come here." Beavis waved to Lisi. Lisi then stepped forward and saluted respectfully. "Good morning, Lord Beavis." "Good morning, Lord Oddis." Oddis, the deputy head of the Royal Mage Corps of Fees, who was now beside Beavis, looked at the dean's beloved disciple with a complicated expression. It was just a matter of a thought, and the good disciple was gone. What a pity. Beavis did not see Oddis's strange expression, and said to Lisi with a serious face, "I have reported to His Majesty the King. I'm responsible for the disposal this time. The Dawn Church has also arranged people to guard the lower city. Lisi, you follow me, and you are still needed for the work of confirming in advance." "Understood, Lord Beavis." Lisi agreed very readily. This was also what he had planned. To be honest, he did not expect the kingdom to act so quickly. It seems that the move of the 10,000 Beasts Church to launch a blood sacrifice ceremony in the brilliant light city has indeed touched the most sensitive nerves of the kingdom. Beavis did not say much, but silently led Lisi and the others to the direction of Golden Lily Lane. "Are they here?" Mo-Yun asked, and Zua, who was watching intently, shook his head. "Not yet, don't worry." Huo Yanan and Liu Tatan, who were standing by, said nothing and quietly leaned against the wall waiting. When the manager of the White Dove Chamber of Commerce found them this morning, he was wondering why Lisi asked them to go to Jinbei Lane. As a result, after meeting Zua and Mo-Yun, he realized that there was a hidden plot here. "I didn't expect Lisi to still remember them." Touchpoint JPG. After conscientiously completing the tasks of cleaning and carrying goods assigned by the White Dove Chamber of Commerce yesterday, Liu Tatan and Huo Yanan also successfully became official professionals. Liu Tatan chose a warrior, while Huo Yanan chose a mage. At the same time, the players who chose to work hard in the mercenary guild were still struggling in the process of accepting the first task, and the contrast became obvious all of a sudden. This also made more and more players born in Kangwang City choose to join the White Dove Guild. Are you the lucky ones mentioned in the forum post? Have you become an intermediate member of the White Dove Chamber of Commerce? I remember that you can enjoy a 9.5% discount when you buy things in the Chamber of Commerce, right? After Mo-Yun introduced Lisi's actions yesterday to the two, he asked curiously, "Indeed, but we are also lucky." Stop talking. Lisi and his friends are here. Mo-Yun was about to ask if there were any other benefits for the intermediate members of the White Dove Chamber of Commerce, but was interrupted by the Claw who had been observing. The three of them quickly stood up and looked beside Claw. Sure enough, they saw Lisi walking with a group of heavily armored soldiers. The golden armor was particularly dazzling in the sun, especially the old men beside Lisi. Their momentum was even stronger, which made the four people feel shaken. Mo-Yun and others couldn't help but mutter in their hearts, how could playing a game feel like facing a real beast? However, seeing so many people beside Lisi, the four people couldn't go forward and could only worry on the side. Lisi also noticed the four heads sticking out of the alley and nodded secretly. This was also deliberately arranged by him. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a pity if there were no live broadcasters around during the battle against the Church of 10,000 Beasts? It was just the right time to give them a task. Lisi's mind moved, and a new task notification appeared in the system panel of Mo-Yun and others. Silver level task, the conspiracy of the Church of 10,000 Beasts. Task requirements. Lisi discovered the conspiracy planned by the Church of 10,000 Beasts in the lower city district, and united with the Golden Lion Knights, the Royal Mage Corps of Fees, the Church of Dawn and other forces, to prepare to encircle and suppress the Church of 10,000 Beasts hidden in the lower city district. Participate in it. Task reward, issued according to the completion of the task, highest reward. 300,000 experience points. 3,000 gold coins. Mo-Yun and others looked at each other in bewilderment. After accepting the task, they were just playing a supporting role in the previous silver level task, and a silver assassin appeared. Now the reward is so high, can they still survive? Chapter 159. Peta was plotted to death. Lisi didn't care about those players anymore. He just asked them to come for a visit, and didn't expect them to play any role. If you really want to talk about the mission of the Church of 10,000 Beasts, it is at least a gold level mission. Even when the blood sacrifice riot of the Church of 10,000 Beasts broke out a few months after the server was launched, the players were just background boards and had no chance to resist at all. They were almost at the house in Kudna. After Lee Si signaled, Beavis waved his hand, and the soldiers following them stopped in place without any unnecessary movements. Lee Si gently touched the ground with the staff in his hand, and a figure emerged from the shadow under the corner of the wall not far away. It was a silver assassin List. Did anyone enter that house after I left yesterday? Lee Si asked List, and Beavis and others beside him were also concerned about this issue. No, Lord Lee Si. List was almost scared to death, lowered his head, and dared not say more. What kind of scene is this? Especially the row standing next to Lee Si. Everyone's aura is no worse than that of the Death Eagle Tash. In other words, these 6 or 7 people are all gold level strongmen. Yeah. Lee Si looked at Beavis and Otis, who nodded. The 4th ring Arcane Silence. The 7th ring spell, Mass Invisibility. Under the effect of Otis's spell, the figures of Lee Si and his party gradually disappeared into the air. The soldiers behind him did not show any curiosity, but just stood there quietly, waiting for orders. Where is it? Otis's voice sounded out of thin air, but the voice stagnated beside the few people, and did not spread out. Even the footsteps were the same. This is the silence of the Arcane Master. After the improvement, the effect has far exceeded the original 4-ring spell. Follow me. In the passage behind the living room, Lee Si's voice followed closely, and several gold masters followed closely behind Lee Si, and walked towards the basement. Now in the dark passage of the house, the candles used for lighting on both sides have long been extinguished, and it seems that no one has been here for a long time. Lee Si pointed to the basement door that was close at hand, and gestured to Beavis and Otis. After a careful look, Odysseus nodded to Beavis, indicating that the door was indeed attached with a spell of flip door. And Odysseus did feel an ominous smell from it, as if there was some deep darkness and danger hidden in it. After getting confirmation, Beavis said nothing more, and signaled Lee Si and others to step back a few steps. How to enter the secret room behind the flip door. The simplest way is to use an attack that exceeds the upper limit of the flip door to directly break it, and the most suitable person to do this is Beavis. Beavis took a deep breath, as if he was going to suck out all the air around him, mobilizing the strength of his whole body. His skin flushed slightly, and pure and bright golden light began to condense on the long sword held in Beavis' hands. This is the power that the Golden Warrior relies on to fight against the late-stage profession of the mage, the power of breaking the law. Martial arts, Golden Lion's Claw. The long sword that had turned into pure gold fiercely slashed at the flip door. Under the extremely strong force of Beavis, this 7-ring spell had no power to resist, and shattered in an instant. After flip door, in the secret room. After Petal finished the scheduled contact with Kaiser today, he sat down aside. The number of monsters planned to be sent is still far from enough. I don't know how Kaiser's preparations are. I don't know why. After the young mage left yesterday, Petal always felt uneasy, as if something bad was about to happen. But he checked the secret room several times, and there was no problem with the blood sacrifice ritual array, and it was running normally. The monsters were also sleeping quietly under the influence of the potion and the power of the Lord of all Beasts, and nothing happened. But he always had a feeling that a disaster was about to happen, and as time went by, the shadow hanging over his heart became more and more gloomy. Something is wrong. There is definitely something wrong. There was something wrong with the young mage yesterday. Petal couldn't sit still anymore, and stood up from the chair to inform Kaiser of the situation. At this moment, he suddenly saw a golden crack appear on the flip door. Boom. A deafening sound rang out of nowhere, and the house blessed with many secret arts suddenly shattered. Several figures in the smoke suddenly attacked Petal. Damn it. How could Petal not know what happened? The strong men of the kingdom had come to the door. He stepped back suddenly and took out the communication prop given by Kaiser, but no matter how Kaiser urged it, there was no response. Petal looked up and saw an old man in a gorgeous wizard robe standing outside the door. The staff in his hand emitted an inexplicable brilliance. If it was a message from a strong man of the same level, it might be more difficult for Odysseus but it was still very easy to interfere with the communication prop. Although Lisi and others were ready to alert the enemy, delaying the time for the Church of All Beasts to get the information would also allow them to concentrate on clearing this arrangement first. Damn it, the communication was interfered by them. Petal's mind changed, and the situation at this time could not be worse. There was no time to hesitate. Thinking of Kaiser's instructions, Petal gritted his teeth and slammed the ground, activating the blood sacrifice ritual array engraved on the ground, and at the same time unlocking the magic that enveloped the sleeping monster. Beavis saw the blood array on the ground emitting a ferocious breath, and the monsters of different sizes awakening on the side of the secret room. His expression remained unchanged, but his eyes became much more fierce. But, you idiots of the evil god church. You are looking for death. In anger, Beavis felt a little fortunate in his heart. Fortunately, Lisi found out otherwise. If these evil god believers were really well prepared, I don't know what a tragic disaster would be set off in Kangwang City. There was no time to think about it. Beavis took the lead and slashed at Petal with a powerful sword. Petal took out a mace covered with various barbs and struggled to block Beavis's sword. As a ruthless person who came from the baptism of the evil god, Petal was ruthless to others and himself. This is a reason why he was unscrupulous in the Church of 10,000 Beasts. But even so, his strength was much worse than that of Beavis, the first warrior of the kingdom, not to mention that Beavis would not talk to him about knightly etiquette at this time. The strong men of the Golden Order of the Knights behind him attacked together and began to fight Petal in a group. Petal could not resist a few blows and was severely injured. He was held by the neck by Beavis and could not stand up again. Lus was now beside Odysseus, watching the battle closely. Petal's defeat was just the beginning, and greater dangers were still to come. As the monsters gradually woke up, the brutal and barbaric aura that had exploded had begun to spread outward. Chapter 160 Bloody Battle. As the monsters woke up, the faces of the people at the scene became more serious. Tusk Boar, Wind Griffin, Blood Meteor Snake Lisi even saw a Moon Spirit Leopard mixed in with the monsters. He seemed to realize something, but now is not the time to think about these things. Lisi simply calculated that there were at least hundreds of monsters, most of which were bronze level monsters, a small half were silver level monsters, and several gold level monsters. With such an exaggerated hand, it is quite difficult to completely kill all these monsters here. Beavis and others were also calculating in their hearts, but they didn't know that the Church of 10,000 Beasts originally planned to arrange more than 300 monsters in each secret room. In comparison, the current situation is much better. However, these monsters seemed to have no reason and wisdom at all. Under the influence of the blood formation, they even began to fight each other. Just as Beavis and others retreated to the basement passage, they were ready to use the terrain to kill these monsters here. Suddenly, as the monsters woke up, the top of the basement suddenly broke apart, and most of the monsters poured out through the big hole in the ceiling. Beavis's face was livid. Seeing this situation, how could he not know that the people of the Church of 10,000 Beasts had already prepared to release the monsters? Without delay, Beavis suddenly jumped out of the basement and shouted to the soldiers of the Golden Lion Knights who were quietly standing not far away, "Everyone attack! Stop all these monsters in this area. Teams 1, 2, and 3 kill the monsters, and Team 4 block the monsters, and evacuate irrelevant personnel." The soldiers who received the order immediately set out, without any fear, and rushed towards the group of monsters pouring out of the basement. Just by the first contact, it can be seen that the Golden Lion Knights are worthy of being the most elite troops in the kingdom. The soldiers skillfully formed 3-person teams to cooperate and dealt with each monster separately, relying on clever attacks to resolve the impact of the monsters. Beavis led other strong men into the group of monsters to deal with the gold level monsters respectively. This level of monsters has exceeded the limit of the soldiers' response, and they must take it. Lisi looked at Petal who was thrown aside. He looked like he had been broken by Beavis because of his bloody body. Odysseus was still adding buff spells to Beavis and others. He had no choice. The power of the Dawn Church was concentrated in other places in the lower city. There were no priests of the Dawn Church here. Beavis and others were under great pressure. They really didn't expect that the 10,000 Beasts Church would be so crazy to release so many monsters in the lower city. These gold level monsters have lost their minds. Although their strength has declined, they are also fearless and will not retreat even a step because of their injuries. So although Beavis has a great advantage, it will take Beavis and others a lot of time to kill these monsters with their powerful bodies. Lisi also joined the battle directly, but he did not choose to attack the gold level monsters, but chose to attack those silver level and bronze level monsters. Under the blessing of the Emerald Staff, dense blue fireballs appeared around Lisi's body, and under precise control, they accurately smashed the monsters. At this time, Lisi's injury increasing expertise came in handy. Supernatural magic, and all laws return to the void. Lisi brought damage amplification, allowing Lisi's simple blue ball spell to cause huge damage to the monster. Bronze level monsters simply couldn't withstand 2 or 3 blue ball spells, and even silver level monsters were severely injured by several blue ball spells. As Lisi's strength continued to increase, the power of this 3-ring arcane spell became more and more terrifying. Just as Lisi officially started the battle, his system panel also refreshed a new task. Gold level task, Bloody Battle. Task requirements: you discovered and started to destroy the blood sacrifice ceremony planned by the Church of 10,000 Beasts. The final battle has begun. Defeat the plot of the Church of 10,000 Beasts. Task reward: 10 million experience points, special expertise, red slaughter. The task is out. I didn't expect that the system would give me an exclusive task for the blood sacrifice turmoil that was triggered in advance this time, and it was a gold level task. Lisi looked at the fresh and hot tasks on the system panel and nodded. However, I don't know whether it is because of his strength or because he took the initiative to guide this task. The experience points rewarded by the task are much more than in the previous life, and there is also a brand new specialty, but the effect is still unknown. Lisi is not worried about not completing the task. The situation this time is much better than the blood sacrifice turmoil in the previous life. There are a lot of big guys behind him. Lisi just needs to brush it now. Yes, Lisi is brushing monsters now. It is usually quite difficult to encounter so many monsters. The game God's Revelation is different from other games. There will be wild monsters standing all over the mountains for players to brush. Players have to spend a lot of effort to brush monsters and upgrade. It's not like now that they can directly resist Lisi's attacks without dodging or avoiding. Lisi looked at the crazy jumping prompts in his system panel and couldn't help but sigh. The old friends of the Church of 10,000 Beasts are so nice. If it weren't for the high efficiency of spells to brush monsters, and if he planned to disguise his talent, Lisi would want to draw his sword and rush in to wreak havoc now, and it would definitely feel great. Hot blood sprayed everywhere on the battlefield, broken limbs flew everywhere, and the shrill roar of the beasts rang in everyone's ears, but it did not shake the ferocity of the blood-soaked soldiers. For Kangwang City, dead monsters are good monsters. Mo Yun and others who were hiding on the side stared at the battle in front of them, a little dumbfounded. What's going on? Where did so many monsters come from? And it seems that the breath of each one is so terrifying. As a professional who has just reached level 2 or 3, even the weakest bronze level monster on the battlefield is extremely deadly red in their exploration. Such a strong monster was killed by Lisi's spell. Lisi, who was frantically slaughtering monsters on the battlefield, attacked the approaching monsters with countless magics of various colors. The huge ice cone smashed down from above the tusk boar. The boar's tough skin was like a rag and did not provide any obstruction. The ice cone penetrated the ground with its body, and the bursting plasma was as dazzling as a blooming blood flower. In the eyes of these players, Lisi was like a cold god of death, giving death to every enemy equally on the battlefield. Just like an elegant artist, he was so elegant and handsome, while floating in the air, and casting spells calmly, without being shaken by the bloody battlefield. Is this a mage? So elegant. So handsome. Mo Yun's eyes lit up, and he was shocked by the scene. Thank you to Han Crossing for 10,000 starting coins. Thank you to Honey, Sugar, and Water for 10,000 starting coins. Thank you to Shenmo Hope Star for 4,100 starting coins. Thank you to Don't Want to Drive, Just Want to Lay Down for 1,500 starting coins. Thank you to Zaoshu Negative for 1,500 starting coins. Thank you to Fengzi for 1,500 starting coins. Thank you to Sakamoto Mairo, Phantom Wuhan 10086, Zeus Hang Xingyuxing, Shushuming, Xiangnan Muan and other big guys for 100 starting coins. Thank you to all the big guys for their monthly tickets, recommendation tickets and subscription support. It's been a bit difficult for me to listen to the rain lately, but I will keep trying. Chapter 161 Breaking the Formation. In the battlefield of Golden Lily Lane, the rushing monsters fell down like wheat under the attack of Lisi and others. Beavis and his men had already dealt with the gold level monsters they were facing. When the last monster fell to Beavis, the battlefield was almost completely covered with blood and broken limbs and flesh. The soldiers were almost all fished out of the blood, standing there panting and waiting for Beavis' instructions. As soon as the monsters appeared, Beavis asked the Golden Lion Knights to control the surroundings, and only a few unlucky pedestrians were unfortunately affected. This result is much better than Lisi's previous life. Beavis ordered the captains to organize the team. Now they can't take a rest, and there are more difficult battles waiting for them. Lisi, what should we do now? Beavis walked over, stepping on the corpses of monsters along the way, with a bit of relief on his face. Fortunately, the plans of the Church of 10,000 Beasts were discovered in advance, otherwise it would be quite difficult to end them if they continued to prepare. This is why he asked Lisi's opinion first. Lisi pointed to the location of the basement just now and said to Beavis, "Do you have a way to stop the ritual array in the basement?" Beavis nodded. He almost forgot about the array. Just now, all his thoughts were on destroying the monsters. No problem. I brought countermeasures from the Dawn Church. Beavis led Lisi and others to jump down from the gap in the ground and saw the blood sacrifice ritual array engraved on the ground of the basement. The entire array seemed to be unaffected by the falling rocks and was still operating normally, but the blood red color was a little more gorgeous than before. I suspect that the 10,000 Beasts Church made such a big fuss just to provide blood power for the array. This should also be the key to the 10,000 Beasts Church's plan. Lisi looked at the blood red array pattern on the ground and said cautiously. Odysseus stepped forward and studied it for a moment, then shook his head and said, "The principle is very simple, but the power of the magic circle should come from the Lord of all Beasts. The power level is too high, and I can't break it in a short time. Well, it's a good thing I brought this in advance." Beavis took out a glass bottle filled with pure white liquid from the storage ring. There were only 3 or 4 drops of liquid in the bottle, which exuded a warm light, but also had a sense of superiority. Is this holy water? Lisi was a little confused. It's not that he has never used the high-level holy water of the Dawn Church, but compared with the one in Beavis's hand, the power contained in it is simply the difference between the light of a firefly and the brilliance of the bright moon. No, this is the power of the God of Dawn. Beavis said with a sigh, while carefully looking at the small bottle in his hand. If the plan of the Church of 10,000 Beasts hadn't really angered those white robes, I don't think they would have taken out the pure power of the God of Dawn. But this is also the most efficient way. No matter what arrangements are made, they will be purified by the power of the God of Dawn. After all, he is a powerful god standing at the top of the gods. Lisi thought secretly in his heart that this drop of pure power of the dawn could probably be diluted into hundreds of bottles of high-grade holy water he had used. Beavis stood beside the blood red array pattern, opened the bottle stopper, carefully dropped a drop of the dawn power on the flowing blood red, and quickly collected it. I don't know how many arrays there are behind. I have to use it sparingly. The drop of the dawn power fell on the blood red array pattern, just like pouring cold water into a boiling oil pan. The array that did not waver under the attack of everyone began to fluctuate violently. Gradually, the blood red color in the array pattern began to fade, and a large area of silver white appeared on the array. Clang, an excited voice appeared in everyone's ears. Under the influence of the power of the God of Dawn, the blood sacrifice array of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts had completely faded its blood color and turned into gray-brown traces. Beavis nodded. There should be no problem now. Lisi's system panel also gave a prompt. Successfully destroyed the blood sacrifice ritual array, 1/3. The task completion rate increased. Lisi also nodded and said to Beavis, "Lord Beavis, since this ritual array has been destroyed, the Church of 10,000 Beasts will definitely react soon. Let's." Beavis nodded, patted Lisi's shoulder hard, and took people out without saying anything. They have to reorganize outside and prepare to deal with the possible crisis in other parts of the lower city. Odysseus looked at Lysi with a complicated look, shook his head and walked out. What a good disciple. What was I thinking at that time? Why did I have to delay? Lysi rubbed his aching shoulders. The excited Beavis didn't hold back much strength. Although his strength attribute had been doubled, it was still far from that of the Golden Warrior. However, Lysi also knew what Beavis meant. The stronghold of the Church of 10,000 Beasts here had been taken down by them. Lysi's mission had been completed. The rest was to wait for the people of the Church of 10,000 Beasts to lose their composure. At this time, Lysi no longer needed to participate. Beavis was also considering Lysi. He could not escape the credit he deserved. The remaining tasks might still be dangerous. After all, he would face the incarnation of the evil god, so Beavis asked Lysi to consider whether he wanted to participate. There was no need to think about it. He would definitely participate. Lysi's mission was not completed yet. When Beavis left, he took the seriously injured and unconscious Petal with him. He didn't know if he could get any valuable information from him, but this had nothing to do with Lysi. He didn't plan to follow Beavis directly now. He was going to go directly to Mingsu Street. That was the headquarters of the Church of 10,000 Beasts in the lower city of Kangwang City, and it was also the place where the incarnation of the evil god last landed in his previous life. However, Lysi knew very well that, let alone a silver mage, gold level professionals would be helpless in front of the incarnation of the evil god. Only those legendary masters could block the incarnation of the Lord of all Beasts. But Lysi still planned to take a look, even if it was just a distant observation. Apart from anything else, as long as one could withstand the impact of the pressure of the gods, he could obtain a very rare expertise. The advent of the gods was a rare opportunity, which was why every time the incarnation of the gods descended in the previous life game, a group of funny players would go to give their heads. However, it was not an easy thing to withstand the impact of the pressure of the gods. In the previous life, except for a few lucky players who encountered special circumstances, only a few players with special expertise successfully resisted the consciousness judgment of the pressure of the gods. Lysi was not sure if he could do it, but he had to try it. Even if it didn't work, Lysi asked Joyce to help him out. Chapter 162 Blood Sacrifice. In the lower city of Kangwang City, Mingsu Street, Kaisa was a little restless. He didn't know why he always had a bad premonition, but there was no problem with the contact this morning. The people who stayed behind in the 3 bases responded to the messages normally. Even Petal complained that it was too boring. In addition, because of the turmoil caused by Marion, Kaisa also deliberately stopped the actions of the Church of 10,000 Beasts and temporarily stopped the transportation of the prepared monsters into Kangwang City. It can be said that Kaisa almost stopped all the actions of the Church of 10,000 Beasts just to get through this sensitive time. In his opinion, it has been so low-key, there can't be any more problems. But at this moment, he suddenly received a message from the messenger of God. The blood sacrifice ritual array has been destroyed by 1/3. What? Kaisa was immediately shocked and speechless. He didn't have time to ask the messenger of God about the truth of the information, and hurriedly sent a message to the people stationed in the 3 secret rooms. Tash and Angelo quickly replied to the message. There was nothing unusual, but Petal in Jin Lily Lane had no news and no reply. Kaisa knew that something had happened to Petal. He did not have a single hope, because the news came from the Lord of God. As the only person in the Church of all Beasts in the City of Brilliant Light who could get the oracle of the Lord of all Beasts, Kaisa naturally would not doubt the source of the message from the Lord of God. At this time, the whole room fell into silence. Kaisa sat quietly in front of the table full of information, his face gloomy, as if he was weighing something in his mind. Bang! Kaisa suddenly stood up and kicked the walnut table in front of him away. The flying yellow-brown paper seemed to announce the arrival of the final battle. Taking out the communication props, Kaisa sent a message to everyone in the plan. The Golden Lily Lane base was discovered. There is no news about Petal, and the blood sacrifice ritual array was destroyed. According to the original arrangement, start the plan directly. Let the fear of my lord cover the City of Brilliant Light. At this point, Kaisa no longer wanted to think about why his carefully concealed plan was discovered by the kingdom. Now that we have come this far, let's get started. Kaiser, who was always calm and wise, showed a crazy smile at the corner of his mouth, which gradually spread to his entire face. Finally, I don't have to endure it anymore. My lord. Great my lord, Kaiser offers you blood and death, and may your reputation cover this land. Taking out a pure black staff, Kaiser listened to the roars of beasts and the screams of people outside the window, and a very happy smile appeared on his face. It's wonderful. This taste of fear. Kaiser smiled wildly, holding the staff with his right hand, and swung it hard, and the entire wall of the room facing the street broke apart. Slowly floating in the air, countless dark auras gathered beside Kaiser, and the air currents containing fear, death, and chaos spread wildly around. 7th level divine art, emblem of fear and death. All the civilians who came into contact with the dark airflow spreading from Kaiser seemed to have encountered the most terrifying thing in their lives. Their mental state collapsed all of a sudden, and they fell to the ground like a dying fish, struggling, screaming, and roaring, until the last bit of strength disappeared, leaving only a self-destroyed and unsightly corpse. Floating just above Mingzhu Street, enjoying people's fear, Kaiser was one of the strongest in Kangwang City. Gold level fear priest. Kaiser looked down at the street below. He knew that Tash and Eniello had awakened all the monsters as planned, and put them in the crowded streets of the lower city. All the believers of the Church of 10,000 Beasts were also taking advantage of the chaos to kill crazily, staining the lower city with blood. The bloodier it was, the more excited these thugs were. Since they were followers of the evil god, how could there be a normal person? After discovering the large number of monsters on Mingzhu Street and Fasay Street, Beavis's prior arrangement played a role. After quickly sending out a conspicuous signal, several soldiers in civilian clothes on Pearl Street and Fasay Street rushed towards the surging group of monsters without hesitation. They were not Beavis, nor were they Odysseus. They were just nameless bronze level and silver level warriors. But at this moment, they were willing to rush towards the group of monsters that far outnumbered them, even though their figures were quite small against the huge bodies of the monsters, and even though they knew they were about to face a life or death situation, they were willing to give up everything to delay for a moment. The glory of the kingdom of Fez will never fall. Kangwang City will not allow you scum to be defiled. The Golden Lion Knights, who were deployed in the lower city in advance, also quickly rushed towards Pearl Street and Fasay Street. They knew that they could not delay for a second at this moment. Beavis and others also divided into two teams and rushed in the direction of the signal. Odysseus did not join them, but met with the Royal Mage Corps waiting in the center of the lower city, ready to set up a large magic circle after the incarnation of the evil god descended. The monsters released by the Church of 10,000 Beasts wantonly slaughtered the panicked people before the knights arrived. Even the plainclothes soldiers on the scene could only stop a small part of them at the risk of their lives. The Church of 10,000 Beasts deliberately chose to set up the blood sacrifice array on Mingzhu Street and Fasay Street, because these were the busiest places in the lower city of Kangwang City with the most traffic. It was convenient for them to transport the monsters in without being noticed, and it was also the best place for blood sacrifice. In just a few minutes, hundreds of people had lost their lives in the attacks of monsters in the Church of 10,000 Beasts. The thick bloody smell spread in the streets, and crazy screams were heard all the time. In the sharp teeth and claws of the monsters, ordinary people had no room to resist at all. All kinds of monsters started a crazy killing like wolves into a flock of sheep. The whole block seemed to be only blood red. As the killing continued, more and more blood was drawn into the blood sacrifice array. The souls of countless civilians and the actual fear of the atmosphere also condensed in the air. The thick dark clouds covered the sky, and the entire Kangwang City seemed to be shrouded in a dark cloud. However, before the situation escalated further, the Golden Lion Knights finally arrived at the two blood sacrifice sites, and attacked the monsters that were wantonly slaughtering civilians. A group of people in white robes also came later. The divine arts used by the priests and the weapons of the paladins showed their identity as the Church of Dawn. One after another, the divine arts were bestowed on the warriors of the Golden Lion Knights. The paladins wearing sacred armor stood shoulder to shoulder with them, and faced the surging beasts together. The mages specially assigned by Odysseus also wantonly cast group spells with a breath of destruction on the monsters. Among them, the gold level monsters naturally had human strongmen to deal with them. At this time, the advantage of the human army was finally reflected. As the front line moved forward, the monsters began to be crushed and retreated to the rear. Please give me monthly tickets, big guys. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163, Risking Life. It should be fine. Li Si stood on the roof of a house on Mingsu Street, used the invisibility to hide his figure, and quietly watched the fighting not far away. Li Si had no way to deal with the deaths and injuries of those innocent civilians on Mingsu Street. This was the best he could do. After the incarnation of the evil god in the previous life came, when the kingdom mobilized enough forces to clean up the crazy monsters, thousands of people had already died. And now, with the assistance and cooperation of priests and paladins, the casualties of the soldiers of the Golden Lion Knights are still very small. Although the monsters released by the Church of 10,000 Beasts are powerful, they are all irrational. There is no cooperation between them, and they will even kill each other. Naturally, they are no match for the elite forces of the Kingdom and the Church of Dawn. In Li Si's sight, the golden level strongmen of the Church of 10,000 Beasts who were still slaughtering wantonly not long ago have disappeared, and the rest are just some minions. Sure enough, they are waiting for something. Li Si's mind focused, and soon noticed that the blood on the ground gathered into a strange blood river emitting mist, flowing towards a certain direction of Mingsu Street. Is that the direction where the blood sacrifice ritual array is located? Li Si saw that as the blood was lost, the bodies of the monsters and civilians on the ground began to gradually shrink, showing a sense of lifelessness. It seemed that all the essence of life had left the body with the blood. However, Li Si had no choice. He believed that Beavis, who was not far away, had also noticed this. After all, he had just destroyed part of the blood sacrifice ritual array with his hands, but now the group of monsters in front of him was entangled, and he could not leave. What's more, the elite forces of the Church of 10,000 Beasts must be guarding next to the array at this time. A few people alone would definitely not be able to attack in a short time. However, it is not completely helpless. Li Si showed up, holding the emerald staff, and began to mobilize the surrounding fire element magic particles. 6-ring spell, Flame Domain. This fire element shaping spell can form an area of extremely high temperature flames at a specific location according to the amount of magic power used. The biggest feature is that it burns everything in the area and burns everything. This is also one of the spells that Li Si has been studying in depth recently. He wants to try to extract the unique blue flame of the blue ball spell and apply it to various fire spells that can play a big role in certain situations. For example, now, under the cover of Li Si's Flame Domain, the orange-red flame, that is obviously different from blood, burned on the ground, burning the corpses of the monsters that have not completely lost their life essence. Even the flowing blood river is boiling and burning in the flames. An unpleasant bloody smell spreads at the scene, but Beavis' eyes lit up when he saw Li Si's actions. He picked up an old priest wearing a white robe with golden patterns from his side and asked, "Nickel, do you have a way to purify all the blood and corpses here like this fire spell?" "Beavis, you reckless man, be gentle." The old priest named Nickel felt his shoulder blade wailing in Beavis' thick hands, and he wanted to kick this reckless man to death. "What should I do if I, a senior priest, am seriously injured by my teammates before I have done anything?" After Beavis let go, Nickel rubbed his shoulders in dissatisfaction and then stood up with a serious face. He raised a log staff, and a faint warm white light flowed out of his body, spreading to the sea of corpses and blood in front of him. The 7th level magic, Ashes to Ashes. This magic is one of the few magic arts with powerful killing power among the high-level magic arts of priests. Its effect is to make a specific toughness judgment on the target. If the target does not pass the toughness judgment, the target will be killed instantly, and the remains will be destroyed. After all, it is impossible for the corpse to pass the judgment. Nickel also used the special effect of Ashes to Ashes to destroy the remains, to directly destroy the piled up monster corpses in front of him. Under the shining of white light, the monster corpses on the scene turned grey and white, and then turned into ashes under the breeze. Lisi was also a little shocked. This is the power of the gold level priest. If you can't defeat them in a short time, there are quite a lot of special effects of magic waiting for you. In particular, the divine arts used by priests have various special judgments. If they fail to pass the judgment, the negative effects produced are extremely difficult to deal with. At the same time, the number of skills that priests can learn is second only to the profession of mages. Ordinary people cannot figure out the secrets of priests. Nicole saw that the effect of the 7th level divine art was very good, and the targets were all monster corpses, and the consumption was not high, so he prepared to destroy all the monster corpses on this street in one go. Just as Nicole was preparing, several black and green balls emitting evil auras suddenly attacked the old priest. Beavis, who had been highly alert, naturally discovered this sneak attack in the dark, and cut these attacks directly in midair with several consecutive swords. Nicole ignored it, and prepared the divine arts to be cast with all his heart, entrusting his personal safety to Beavis. As a comrade in arms who had cooperated for more than 10 years, he naturally believed in the tacit understanding between the two. Seeing that the effect of the blood sacrifice ceremony was about to be purified by the old priest, the few people hiding in the dark could no longer hold back, and appeared in the direction of Beavis. Although Lisi had also made a move just now, in their eyes, the threat was far less than that of the old priest, so naturally no one came to trouble him. However, Lisi also saw clearly the powerful people of the Church of 10,000 Beasts who appeared. Tash, Eniello, Osama, etc. were all gold level strongmen who appeared in the Church of 10,000 Beasts in the previous life. However, these 5 or 6 gold level strongmen could not make any splash in front of the elite led by Beavis. As the two strongest forces in Kangwon City, the Kingdom and the Dawn Church naturally have the confidence to overwhelm all enemies head on. Just when Tash and others were struggling to support and had no way to get close to Nicole, the old priest's magic was ready again. Just when the magic ashes spread forward again, Tash suddenly dodged and crashed directly into the white light of this magic. Tash burst out all his strength to resist the magic, but it was not very useful. With his body injured, he collided head-on with this extremely powerful magic, and his body was swallowed up by the white light. For my lord. With the last roar, the leader of the Eagle Brotherhood in the lower city, Tash the Eagle of Death, died. However, this magic was also resisted by Tash's fearlessness. Nicole's face did not change at all. He had already known the madness of these pagans in countless battles. He immediately squeezed the strength in his body and cast the magic again. However, Lisi had noticed that the remaining blood in the street was also flowing rapidly, gathering quickly not far away. Chapter 164 Crazy. In the lower city of Kangwon City, Mingsu Street, in the secret room of the Church of 10,000 Beasts, Kaisa stood there quietly, his whole body aura connected with the blood-colored magic circle in front of him. His body was covered with blood-colored lines, and his veins were bulging. Under his desperate urging, the life essence, blood, and soul outside were quickly added to the blood sacrifice ritual magic circle. It's almost there, it's almost there. Kaisa murmured, not caring at all that the life essence in his body was slowly draining away and being greedily absorbed by the magic circle in front of him. With the continuous influx of blood and soul, the red array pattern of the blood sacrifice magic circle became more and more vivid. Kaisa could sense that the power gathered in the blood sacrifice magic circle on another facet street was gradually filling up. It was a pity that someone leaked the news, allowing the Kingdom and the Dawn Church to come to the door and destroy the blood sacrifice magic circle in Jinbaili Lane in advance. Without that magic circle, the group of monsters released from Mingsu Street and Fasei Street were stopped by the Kingdom and the Dawn Church before they killed many civilians. Now, let alone filling the power of the Lord's incarnation, it was very difficult to successfully send down the incarnation. Although Kaisa was now in the underground secret room, the reconnaissance guards he arranged in advance could convey the situation outside to Kaisa in real time. Seeing that the situation outside was getting worse and worse, the group of monsters was already few and far between. The gold level of the 10,000 Beasts Church was retreating step by step in front of a group of strong men led by Beavis. The injuries on their bodies were getting worse and worse, and they were not far from a complete defeat. Gritting his teeth, Kaiser sent a message to the envoy of God through the communication magic prop. Lord Envoy of God, things have come to this point. There is no other choice. I will leave the church to you. After passing the message, Kaiser crushed the beads in his hand. His face became extremely ferocious, and his eyes were full of fanaticism. Great Lord of all beasts, your servant Kaiser Temu offers you everything here. Let the people of this world enjoy the pain you bring. As soon as the voice fell, the whole body of this golden level fear priest suddenly collapsed into a ball of blood and merged into the blood-colored magic circle in front of him, leaving only the empty black robe and the black staff shining with magic light. Pearl Street battlefield, Nicole's pale face, and desperate casting spells. The corpses of the monsters on the scene have been almost cleared. Seeing this, Beavis also strengthened the strength of his hands, forcing the golden warriors of the Church of All Beasts in front of him to retreat again and again, and they could not stop Beavis's edge at all. Just when Beavis and others were ready to defeat all these evil pagans in one go, something strange happened. The golden level people of the Church of All Beasts in front of them showed a hint of fanaticism on their faces. Their bodies twisted and suddenly collapsed into a ball of blood, flying out of thin air not far away. The disappearance of the enemy did not make Beavis's face feel a little relieved, but even more gloomy. The experienced leader of the Golden Lion Knights knew that the strength of these evil god believers was not terrible, and what he was most worried about was their strange methods and unscrupulous practices. In the current situation, I don't know what these believers of the Lord of All Beasts are doing again. Cooperating with the soldiers in the bloody battle, they hurried to kill all the monsters, arranged for the soldiers to clean up the scene, and stay on standby, and Beavis led the gold-level strongmen of the Kingdom and the Church of Dawn to slowly move towards the place where the blood gathered. I don't know what else exists in the blood sacrifice array, but Beavis already has a hunch in his heart. What is the purpose of the blood sacrifice ritual array? Beavis was not sure, but Lisi told him that it was to prepare enough life essence and soul for the Lord of All Beasts to descend to the incarnation. Now it seems that the plan of the Church of All Beasts has reached the last step, and the only thing left is to descend the incarnation of the Lord of All Beasts. Generally speaking, it is quite difficult for gods to descend the incarnation of gods in the main world, but this is also one of the few ways they can appear in the main world. If there is no other assistance, it will cost a lot of divine power for the gods to condense their incarnations in the main world. This cost is something that many weak gods cannot afford. However, there are many ways to reduce the consumption of condensing incarnations. The righteous gods often use the power of faith of believers directly, or some exclusive divine props to send down incarnations. The evil gods, on the other hand, gather the essence of life through various evil rituals to condense incarnations. The Lord of 10,000 Beasts naturally chose the second way, and prepared to condense his incarnation in the lower city of Kangwang City. What a crazy guy. Lisi, who was hiding not far away, sighed in his heart. Generally speaking, evil gods choose remote places to send down incarnations through blood sacrifice rituals. This is not easy to be discovered by hostile forces, and it minimizes the possibility of interruption in the process of gods sending down incarnations. The Lord of 10,000 Beasts actually chose to hold a blood sacrifice ceremony in Kangwang City in the heart of the human kingdom, especially since it is also an important stronghold of the Dawn Church in the Fanal continent. It can't be described as crazy. Perhaps he chose to do this in order to leave his fear and pain in the hearts of the people of the Kingdom of Feast as much as possible, which are the source of his power. However, in the previous life, perhaps it was the long-term peace in Kangwang City that made the Kingdom and the Dawn Church relax their vigilance a lot, or perhaps the preparations of the 10,000 Beasts Church were indeed sufficient, which really allowed the Lord of the 10,000 Beasts to descend incarnate in the lower city and successfully leave Kangwang City. The occurrence of the blood sacrifice turmoil was undoubtedly a slap in the face of the Kingdom of Feast and the Dawn Church. Therefore, in the following years, the Kingdom of Feast and the Dawn Church were frantically hunting down any member of the 10,000 Beasts Church. All members of the 10,000 Beasts Church who participated in the blood sacrifice turmoil in Kangwang City were given huge bounties by the two major forces. Lisi was thinking in his heart, but his eyes were fixed on the actions of Beavis and others, wondering if he could stop the Lord of the 10,000 Beasts from descending incarnate this time. The Lord of the 10,000 Beasts is coming. Joyce's voice suddenly rang in Lisi's ears, and the figure of the old butler also appeared on the roof next to him. "Are you saying that the incarnation of the Lord of all beasts is coming?" Lisi was not surprised. He knew that this big man had already arrived at the scene, waiting for the incarnation of God to come. "Well, if you can't hold on, speak up in time." Joyce nodded. He was wearing a black assassin's outfit and concealed his aura. He was also paying attention to the situation in the magic circle not far away. Beavis could already see the collapsed ground not far away and the rich blood light emanating from it, but at the same time, an extremely terrifying pressure was slowly emanating from under the ground. That feeling of being high above and extremely depressed, Beavis felt that at this moment he was like a weak ant standing in front of the Titan giant. Chapter 165 God Descends. The teammates behind Beavis were even worse. Their bodies seemed to be bent a little. The members of the Dawn Church were in good condition. Nickel saw this, and a faint white light spread from him, covering Beavis and the others. Beavis felt the pressure on him ease, took a breath, and asked Nickel, "What's going on? Has his incarnation descended?" Nickel shook his head and said seriously, "No." Before Beavis's face improved, he heard Nickel say, "But it's almost the same." Beavis almost fainted from anger and wanted to beat up this guy who was panting while talking. "Is there any way to stop it?" "No." After carefully sensing it, Nickel shook his head and said, "I just realized that I don't know what means the Church of 10,000 Beasts used to make the Lord of 10,000 Beasts consciousness descend here in advance. Now only the incarnation of God is condensed." Beavis paused, turned his head and asked seriously, "Is there no way to stop it now?" "No, it's too late," Nickel said very confidently. As a priest of the God of Dawn, he can resist the oppression of the evil god's breath, and can also clearly understand the state of the blood sacrifice ritual array at this time. The consciousness of the god has descended, the incarnation of God is condensing, and the pressure of the god has been revealed. Hey, what should we do now? Can the great God of Dawn send down his incarnation? Beavis, who knew that it could not be stopped, made a final attempt. "No way." Nickel shook his head and looked up at the dark clouds covering the sky above his head, which were getting darker and darker, and even revealed a hint of deep red blood. "It takes time for the incarnation of God to descend. This is a very important matter for the gods. I want to ask my lord to descend the incarnation at this time." Seeing Nickel's silent expression, Beavis no longer insisted and quickly turned back to the place where the Golden Lion Knights were. "Everyone retreat. All soldiers go. Evacuate the people and leave Pearl Street. Odysseus, quickly take people to set up a magic circle here. The incarnation of the Lord of Beasts is coming here." Beavis's loud voice resounded throughout the street, and Lisi also felt the urgency and anxiety in the voice of the kingdom's first warrior. "Uncle Joyce, how long will it take for the Lord of Beasts to descend?" Lisi asked to the side. He was sure that Flame of Judgment, Fran Stevens, Broken Mountain, Ivan Dean, and Holy Light, Lou Morris of the Morning Church should all be waiting around at this time, waiting for the Lord of Beasts to descend. Joyce smiled and turned to look at Lisi and said, "Now." Boom. As Joyce's voice fell, a roar resounded through the world. A huge blood-red pillar of light suddenly rose from the place where the blood sacrifice ritual array was located, rising straight into the clouds. The sky became completely gloomy, and the earth shook, as if the end of the world had arrived. The arrival of the incarnation of the gods brought new shocks to the world. Countless houses in the Kangwang city collapsed. Civilians in other areas who did not know what had happened looked at the blood-red pillar of light in panic, and ran away from the place where the blood pillar rose. The morning cathedral, which was still emitting light at this time, seemed to be the only hope for the panicked civilians. Many believers even knelt down to pray to the God of the Dawn. "It's coming." King Morton stood high in the palace, looking at the blood-red pillar of light rising from the lower city. His expression was very serious. "Fuchsis? I'm here, your majesty." At this time, Duke Hard was wearing a grey armor and standing beside Morton. "The troubled times are coming, and Kangwang City can no longer be sole axe." Fuchsis was about to say something, but seeing the madness and anger hidden in his majesty's eyes, he didn't say much. "Yes." Mingsu Street, at the blood sacrifice ritual formation. Blood-red beams of light fell from the dark clouds and merged into the deep pit on the ground. Roar. A huge blood-red monster crawled out of the deep pit. It looked like a giant bear that was 30 meters tall when it stood up, but its flesh and blood seemed to have no fixed form and was constantly wriggling. Its body was constantly changing into various forms of monsters. Countless white bone spurs penetrated from its body, and a dark aura of fear emanated from its body. God descended here. The Lord of 10,000 Beasts. At the first sight of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts, Li Si was stunned. The body of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts was so great and ferocious in front of Li Si, and he was completely distracted by the incarnation of God in his sight. There was nothing left in his mind, and Li Si's remaining consciousness was madly fighting against the evil god's aura. Joyce, who was standing aside, only took a look at the incarnation of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts, and turned his eyes away. It's so ugly. After complaining, Joyce turned around and looked at Li Si, then nodded. Not bad. On the street next to him, the priests of the Dawn Church were comforting the soldiers who were going crazy after seeing the incarnation of God. The faint white barrier blocked the spreading fear aura. After seeing the incarnation of God, Beavis and other gold-level strongmen barely maintained their sanity with the help of the Dawn magic and directed everyone to evacuate as soon as possible. As for those civilians who had not had time to leave Mingsu Street, they had already seen the incarnation of the Lord of all Beasts, or were affected by the fear aura. They were screaming and running around frantically, and there was no possibility of rescue. At this moment, the golden barrier rose, forming a semicircular cover that wrapped the entire Mingsu Street, covering the figure of the Lord of all Beasts, and also blocking the dark fear aura inside the barrier. This was the blocking barrier set up by Odys and the Royal Mage Corps, which finally caught up with the last moment when the influence of the Lord of all Beasts spread. Ahem. Li Si suddenly coughed violently. His face was pale, and his forehead was covered with sweat, as if he had just been fished out of the water. Not bad, little Li Si. Faster than I thought. Joyce said with a smile, his words full of relief and relief. Li Si knelt on one knee, panting violently to adjust his body's frantic beating heart. This is really terrifying, Li Si murmured. As a player in his previous life, he had never experienced terrible mental pressure. To be honest, in the player state, facing the gods is just like watching a cutscene, and then the system enters the consciousness judgment of the gods' pressure. If the judgment is not passed, the game character controlled by the player will die directly. The player himself will not feel the extreme oppression brought by the gods at all. So Li Si is also experiencing this situation for the first time. Fortunately, it may be that Li Si's talent is high enough, or it may be that the many expertise he has obtained makes his spirit strong enough. Li Si successfully passed the will judgment of the incarnation of the Lord of all Beasts. From now on, Li Si is also a man who looks directly at the gods. Chapter 166 The War Begins. Li Si looked at the incarnation of the Lord of all Beasts not far away. His face had not yet regained color, but he was no longer nearly fainting, like he did at the beginning. Looking at the inhuman creature not far away, Li Si exhaled deeply, and looked at Joyce. How is it, Uncle Joyce? Good luck. Joyce laughed and seemed to be in a good mood. Is it really the incarnation of God who mainly uses the priesthood of hunting and divine power? Li Si murmured, with a smile on his face. But it is true. After all, the priesthood of beasts is the core priesthood of the Lord of all Beasts, and cannot be used easily. The priesthood of fear can be said to be the most important priesthood of the Lord of all Beasts. If it is easily separated, other gods may take the opportunity to seize this priesthood of fear. In this case, hunting is indeed the most suitable priesthood for condensing the incarnation of God. It is said that the Lord of all Beasts was once a fallen druid, and the priesthood of hunting must have been mastered at that time. Joyce told Li Si this little known secret, and touched his chin. Do you want to embark on the path to godhood with the priesthood of hunting? Li Si asked with some curiosity. The information about the path to godhood in the previous life can be said to be one of the highest secrets in the Jadia world. Players only have some guesses, and have never obtained real information. Joyce shook his head, and a trace of yearning appeared on his face. If possible, if all legendary assassins and thieves want to embark on the path to godhood, the priesthood they most hope to condense is Shadow. Unfortunately, I have never heard of any god who has this priesthood. Li Si nodded. It is true that shadow is the most suitable, but as one of the basic element that constitute the Jaya world, no one has ever mastered this priesthood. At most, it is only a small part of the shadow priesthood. This situation is similar to the four basic elements of fire, water, wind, and earth. No god has ever fully mastered the complete priesthood condensed by these four cornerstone laws. At most, it is only a partial priesthood such as fire and hurricane. However, if someone really condenses such a priesthood, it must be able to directly become a god with powerful divine power. After a while, Lee Si felt his heartbeat finally stabilized, his mind was no longer a mess, and he could start to act normally. Lee Si waved his hand to call out the system panel. You look directly at the gods, Lord of all beasts, hunting incarnation. Begin divine consciousness judgment. Judgment, 1/ divine mental shock. Judgment past, feet, silver moon blessing, takes effect. Judgment, 2/ divine mental shock. Judgment past, feet, silver moon blessing, takes effect. Judgment, 3/ divine mental shock. Judgment past, feet, fearless challenger, takes effect. Judgment, 36/ divine mental shock. Judgment past, your mental toughness reaches the standard. All judgments past, you look directly at the god, Lord of beasts. Your mental toughness is greatly enhanced. You gain the special feat, God. You gain the new feat, Ode to Courage. Feat God. You have successfully passed the god's training. Looking directly at the god brings you a new transformation. Your mental toughness increases by 100%. The effects and duration of negative states of gods and divine creatures on your mind and soul are reduced by 50%. You feature Hymn of Courage. Human courage is the greatest hymn. Your total negative resistance plus 10%, mental toughness plus 20%, will judgment plus 3. You have come into contact with the power of the gods. Your progress in analyzing the power of the gods. 8%. I have to say that I have gained a lot, and it is worth my hard work this time. Lee Si breathed a sigh of relief. God is a very special feat. Some information is hidden. Some people speculate that there are big secrets in it, but the player's level is not high enough to touch it. But no one has discovered the secret until Lee Si was reborn. But even so, the previous 100% increase in mental toughness and reduction of the negative effects of the gods are already quite good. As for the second feat, Lee Si had never seen it in his previous life, and the effect is quite powerful. Could it be that it can only be obtained by facing the pressure of the gods? But Lee Si just glanced at it and didn't think much about it. Because of the arrival of the incarnation of the Lord of all beasts, Mingzhu Street has been almost completely destroyed. The indescribable incarnation of the gods is about to take action. Watch out, this is also a rare experience. Joyce reminded, but the legendary shadow dancer had no intention of stepping forward. Lee Si noticed that 3 figures appeared in front of the Lord of all beasts. Compared with the huge body of the incarnation of God, the human body was so small. But the 3 looked as majestic as mountains, blocking the incarnation of God. Lee Si recognized the handsome young man floating in the air at a glance. It was his teacher, Flame of Judgment, Fran Stevens. And the bald strong man who suddenly jumped down and smashed a big hole in the ground, the only one who could be so reckless except for the warriors, was the legendary monk, Broken Mountain, Irving Dean of the Kingdom. As for the one wearing a simple white robe, step by step, slowly walking towards the incarnation of God, it should be Lou Morris of the Dawn Church, Holy Light. Is this the incarnation of the Lord of all beasts? Irving Dean murmured. As the youngest of the 3 legendary strongmen present, this was his first time facing the incarnation of God. Very interesting. I didn't expect that his incarnation is actually a beast. Is he worthy of being the Lord of all beasts? Fran carefully looked at the monster in front of him. As an arcane master, he felt a little itchy. As a believer of the God of Dawn, Lou Morris ignored the 2 people. Instead, he saluted respectfully in front of the incarnation of the Lord of all beasts, and then took out an ancient book that seemed to be emitting infinite light power, and held it in his hand. Morris saluted. A believer showed respect to the status and identity of the Lord of all beasts. Preparing for battle was to declare war on the behavior of this person who killed countless innocent civilians. So, is it over? Fran chuckled, without any respect for the gods in his words. Lumoris glanced at the legendary wizard and said nothing. A thick white light spread out from the ancient book in his hand and suddenly wrapped around the Lord of all beasts. Divine words and laws. Blockade. Divine words and laws. Deprivation. Divine words and laws. Suppression. As Lumoris chanted, the white light turned into 3 huge chains that were tied to the Lord of all beasts. The giant beast roared, but the pressure it exuded was rapidly weakening. Chapter 167 Meteor. This divine command is really useful. Fran glanced at the ancient book in Lumoris's hand and sighed in his heart. However, he had no intention of robbing it. After all, it was the exclusive holy relic of the Dawn Church, St. Hoyle's manual. Even if he was an arcane master, he couldn't use it. It was the personal belongings of St. Hoyle, the legendary god-favored saint of the Dawn Church, and recorded his experience and feelings about the teachings of the Dawn Church. Legend has it that when he ascended to the kingdom of the God of Dawn, the only thing he left was this manual. However, the greatest value of this manual is not its content, but the manual itself. After spending a long time with God-favored St. Hoyle, this manual has been completely infiltrated by the power of the God of Dawn. Coupled with Hoyle's own perception, it has completely transformed into a legendary equipment. In fact, because the God of Dawn injected his divine power and divinity into St. Hoyle's manual, its status has been at the top of legendary equipment, infinitely close to a semi-artifact. St. Hoyle's manual has almost no power blessing for the priests of the Dawn Church. Its power is all concentrated on blessing the priests. Law spell. Thanks to the powerful divine power and high status of the God of Dawn, priests will automatically upgrade to Divine Word Law spell when using St. Hoyle's manual. Although the use requirements of Divine Word Law spell are quite high, the user must be at least a legendary priest. But at the same time, its effect is extremely terrifying, and the requirements for exemption from the law judgment are extremely high, and it can even have an effect on the incarnation of the gods. Divine Word Law spell, Blockade, reduces the influence of the fear aura of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts. Divine Word Law spell, Deprivation, temporarily deprives the Lord of 10,000 Beasts of his terrifying recovery power. Divine Word Law spell, Suppression, limits the high immunity effect of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts' divine status. Although it consumes a lot, Lumoris greatly limited the strength of the incarnation of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts through these 3 Divine Word Law spells. As for why he didn't use Law, Death, compared to other laws, the price to pay for directly destroying the incarnation of the Lord of all Beasts is really too high. Perhaps only the God of Dawn can kill the incarnation of the Lord of all Beasts with a single word. However, the legendary monk Ivandine didn't think so much. After stretching his muscles, he stomped on the ground and rushed towards the Lord of all Beasts. Bang! The Lord of all Beasts' body, which was constantly squirming like mud, seemed to be hit hard by something, and his chest bulged backwards. However, Ivan retreated back at a faster speed and smashed into the ground, raising a large amount of dust. After all, his main attribute is not strength, and he is still far from being able to directly confront the Lord of all Beasts. Fran shook his head. Why are these guys so stubborn? Fran has never understood the way these stubborn kids think, just like those stubborn kids always think that mages are wretched. The hurricane swept away the smoke and dust, and Ivan's figure appeared in the deep pit on the ground, but he didn't seem to be injured. After all, as a profession with endurance as the main attribute, the strong body with thick skin and flesh is their strength. Hey. Fran smiled and shook his head, waving the legendary staff, Jair's Wrath, in his hand slowly, and a huge amount of magic power flowed out of his body. In an instant, a huge fiery red magic circle suddenly expanded under Fran's feet, who was lurking in the air. Lisi felt a little dizzy, just by looking at the complicated and exquisite magic patterns. This far exceeded Lisi's current level of knowledge and understanding. The figure of Judgment Flame looked so small on the magic circle that was almost the same size as the body of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts, but it was so dazzling in Lisi's eyes. It seemed that the whole world was focused on him. Haha. Come on, Lord of 10,000 Beasts. At this time, Fran finally showed his demeanor as the strongest man in the East Continent, and his spirit was not even inferior to the incarnation of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts. Roar. The Lord of all Beasts seemed to sense something was wrong, and stood up with all his strength. A black shockwave containing an extremely terrifying evil force attacked Fran. If that's all. Fran's smile remained unchanged, and he waved his black crystal staff lightly, and a dazzling red light condensed on the huge magic circle under his feet. Legendary Arcane, Fran's Sunfire Meteor Explosion. As Fran shouted, dense fiery red meteors condensed on the magic circle, and blasted towards the Lord of all Beasts below like a storm. The black shockwave of the Lord of all Beasts did not last long in Fran's legendary Arcane, before it disintegrated and dissipated. Countless fiery red meteors fell on the huge body of the Lord of all Beasts like a punishment from heaven. This scene was so shocking and beautiful, but any of the fire meteors could smash a gold level warrior to pieces, which was dangerous and terrifying. The roar of extreme anger permeated the sky, but the Lord of all Beasts could not escape from the meteor shower at all. He could only be passively suppressed in the deep pit by the terrifying pressure and endure the terrifying attack. When the magic circle under Fran's feet dissipated, the pearl street below was like a large piece was cut off. A cenote with a depth of tens of meters appeared in front of Lee Si, burning with extremely high temperature crimson flames. Oh. Is this the terrifying vitality of the Lord of all Beasts? It is indeed extraordinary. Fran looked down at the darkness in the deep pit, without any unexpected emotions. But it's just like that. After all, he is the incarnation of a god, and he will not be killed so easily. ORRR. The dark giant beast crawled out of the deep pit, and huge and terrifying wounds appeared everywhere on his body. The black muscles at the wounds twisted wildly, but could not heal. This is the effect of divine word law, deprivation, which prevented the Lord of all Beasts' wounds from healing. Under the influence of Lee Si, the blood sacrifice ceremony of the Church of 10,000 Beasts collected far less life essence than what the Lord of 10,000 Beasts needed to condense his incarnation. With the voluntary sacrifice of Kaiser and other gold-level strongmen of the Church of 10,000 Beasts, it was barely enough for the Lord of 10,000 Beasts to condense his incarnation. But at the same time, the current Lord of 10,000 Beasts is far worse than the state when he descended normally in his previous life. This incarnation of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts barely reached the threshold of the incarnation of God, not to mention that he was ambushed by several legends. Apart from anything else, Saint Hoyle's manual was not in the morning cathedral of Kangwang City before, but when he learned that the incarnation of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts was about to descend, Lumoris spent a huge price to teleport it from the church headquarters. This also severely limited the strength of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts. Fran was a little bored. He had seen many incarnations of God, but this was the first time he had seen such a weak one. To be honest, even if the Lord of 10,000 Beasts descended normally, his strength might not be as strong as his. At most, his health bar was a little longer. Chapter 168 The End. At this time, the Lord of all Beasts seemed to have no reason at all, and rushed towards Fran madly. Everyone present felt a strong threat from this legendary wizard. Fran raised his eyebrows, not caring at all, and continued to prepare the spell to be released in mid-air. However, the attack of the Lord of all Beasts did not fall on Fran. To be precise, the attack of the Lord of all Beasts was stopped halfway. Martial Arts, 7 Elephants Wave Fist. Accompanied by the light blue energy fluctuations, Ivan stopped the Lord of all Beasts with a serious expression, gently wiping off the black stain on his right fist. Legendary priest Lumoris stood in the same place, seemingly calm and composed. But in fact, this legendary priest was already struggling to maintain 3 divine word law spells. But this was also necessary, otherwise it would be like the previous life. Although the strength of the 3 people could defeat the incarnation of the Lord of all Beasts, it was difficult to kill it by force, because of the huge body of the god and the life essence brought by the blood sacrifice ceremony. In the end, it brought great damage and tragic casualties to Kangwang City, and left deep scars on the kingdom of Feast. In the end, the incarnation of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts successfully left, which was like a slap in the face of the kingdom of Feast. However, now, with Lee Si's early warning, to destroy the arrangement of the blood sacrifice ceremony, and the huge restrictions on the Lord of 10,000 Beasts by St. Hoyle's Manual. The several legendary powerhouses present have the possibility of forcibly killing the incarnation of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts here. Although Ivan is standing in front of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts at this time, he also notes that he is not the opponent of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts. The only thing he can do is to restrict the actions of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts as much as possible to create opportunities for Flame of Judgment. A silver fist-sized sphere condensed on the staff in Fran's hand, and it instantly appeared above the head of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts under Fran's control. Legendary Arcane. Fran's ultimate corrosion sphere. The silver ball suddenly broke apart above the head of the Lord of all Beasts, and a large amount of silver liquid that expanded poured down from mid-air, soaking the huge body of the Lord of all Beasts. Whoa, this special silver liquid seemed to be extremely corrosive. The surface that was not damaged by the legendary monk's attack was sizzling at this moment, and white mist rose up. The Lord of all Beasts howled in pain, as if even the gods could not bear this piercing pain. Under the attack of this exclusive legendary arcane, the body of the Lord of all Beasts seemed to be 2 circles smaller. The 3 legends cooperated to suppress the evil god who came to the world, and everything seemed to be developing in a good direction. Li Si, who was far away, had no intention of going forward at all. He had done everything he could do, and now he just had to watch the show honestly. Although the head of the incarnation of the god was very fragrant, if Li Si could take it, the experience gained might be able to directly promote to the gold level, but he also had to figure out the reality. Li Si was not even a food deliveryman now. He could not bear the fear aura of the god level. Uncle Joyce, aren't you going over now? Li Si was a little curious. After all, Joyce wanted to obtain the power of the Lord of all Beasts from the incarnation of God, but he seemed to be in no hurry now. Looking at this, if it was any later, the Lord of all Beasts might not be able to bear it. Joyce smiled and shook his head, saying, "This is just the beginning. Don't take the gods too lightly. That is a completely different level of existence. If it were not for the restrictions of Jair's main world, there would be no chance for the gods to resist. For example, now, although the Lord of all Beasts looks miserable, it is still a long way to go to kill this god known for his vitality. Otherwise, why do you think the Lord of all Beasts chose to descend in this form instead of a human incarnation?" Oh. Li Si nodded. The secrets introduced by the big boss allowed Li Si to peek into the secrets of the world's most powerful peak. But only Fran is here, otherwise it would be really difficult. Joyce said with a sigh, and he had a very high opinion of Flame of Judgment. "So what should we do now?" Li Si asked the legendary shadow dancer in front of him. Although he had rich experience in his previous life, he was only a gold level, and didn't know much about the battles at the god level. "Wait." Joyce smiled and said calmly. Soon Li Si understood what Joyce meant. In the battlefield not far away, although Fran and others had an absolute advantage on the scene, the Lord of Beasts was like an indestructible cockroach. No matter how much he was injured, he could get up quickly and seemed to not care at all. This peak had lasted for several hours. Lumoris and Ivan's faces were already a little pale, but Fran was like nothing happened, still casting various powerful or strange arcane spells with ease. Li Si even felt that his teacher was experimenting with something. However, after such a long battle, the Lord of Beasts' condition became extremely bad. There were scars of all sizes all over his body, and there were even many through wounds. The wounds were charred black. Li Si suspected that, even though Lumoris had revoked the decree, the Lord of all Beasts had not recovered his strength. At this time, Mingsu Street had been completely razed to the ground, and many places had even turned into orange-red magma because of the spell of Flame of Judgment. Li Si noticed that Joyce beside him stood up and stretched his muscles. "I'm going over. Remember to keep the amulet with you," Joyce reminded him, and his whole body turned into a grey shadow and left the roof. Is he going to pick up heads? Li Si was a little envious, but he soon stopped thinking about it and turned his eyes to the battlefield again. The incarnation of the Lord of all Beasts was already scarred, and his resistance was getting weaker and weaker, but Fran and others did not relax at all. The more critical the moment, the more you can't be careless. It would be inappropriate if he was taken away by the Lord of all Beasts' dying counterattack. Woo. At this time, the Lord of all Beasts no longer tried to fight back, but stood up from the ground. His huge body no longer had any characteristics of a ferocious beast. It was just a mass of living meat. Most people would probably see their sanity drop to negative numbers. Although the Lord of all Beasts had no eyes at this time, everyone present felt as if the Lord of all Beasts was staring at them. Even Lee Si, who was on the edge of the battlefield, felt the same way. The feeling of extreme hatred and madness seemed to freeze his body completely. However, this feeling came and disappeared quickly. Before Lee Si could breathe a sigh of relief, he saw the Lord of all Beasts' body swell up strangely. Oh no, he's going to self-destruct. Legendary monk Ivan said in horror. It's too late. Tingai who went to watch the game. It's uncomfortable. It's better not to watch it. Oh, I'm so angry. I'll continue typing. Chapter 169 God's Demise. Feeling the aura of destruction coming from the Lord of all Beasts, Ivan's face looked a little ugly. He didn't expect the Lord of all Beasts to be so decisive. Once he was sure that there was no possibility of escape, he chose to self-destruct directly without any hesitation. He didn't give the legends present any chance to continue to consume. If the Lord of all Beasts really succeeded in self-destruction, it would be impossible to stop it with the protective magic circle built by the Royal Mage Corps of Feast. Although Ivan was confident that he could survive, at least half of the Brilliant Light City would be destroyed. Fran. Ivan shouted directly to the flame of judgment in the sky without caring about anything else. Fran naturally also noticed the Lord of all Beasts' move, frowned slightly, and raised his staff, as if he wanted to do something. But soon, Fran seemed to notice something, and a smile appeared on his face, and even the legendary staff, Jadia's wrath, was put away. Ivan was so angry that he almost cursed. If he could fly, he would have wanted to fly up and punch Fran. If the Lord of all Beasts really destroyed itself, the city of Brilliant Light would be finished. Fran didn't even bother to look at Ivan. It's okay that he's brainless and stubborn, but his perception is so poor. It shouldn't be like this. Shouldn't the perception of Monk be excellent? Ivan didn't know what was going on with Fran. Among the 3 people present, he was the only one who could stop the Lord of all Beasts from self-destructing. However, La Morris, who was standing aside, seemed to have discovered something and frowned. He noticed that a very unfamiliar legendary aura appeared in the body of the Lord of all Beasts, revealing a hint of extreme sharpness in the secret. Ivan was just concerned and confused just now, and he soon noticed the abnormality. Before he could react, the Lord of all Beasts' swollen body suddenly collapsed in the middle like a balloon punctured from the inside, constantly emitting dark miasma. After a while, the body of the Lord of all Beasts turned into a pool of muddy black liquid. No one would have thought that this was once the incarnation of a god. The Lord of 10,000 Beasts hunted the incarnation and fell here. Is this the end? Feeling a little unreal, Ivan noticed that there was a black figure standing in the middle of the black mud. The faint grey aura on his body made Ivan unable to see the man's appearance clearly. Is this the power of the shadow plane? Ivan was sure that this was a legendary strongman and a legendary assassin. The figure's hand flashed, and 3 unknown objects flew quickly towards the 3 legendary strongmen present. Ivan raised his hand to catch it, and when he opened his palm, he saw that it was a pure black round bead, which seemed to be sealed with something. After a little sensing, Ivan understood that the power of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts was sealed. The black figure nodded to Fran and the other 2, and disappeared in a flash. Ivan felt a little uncomfortable, and he didn't know why. Obviously the Lord of 10,000 Beasts was destroyed, and the Kangwang city was saved. Obviously, he also got a share of the last combat power. But this feeling of being robbed of a head in the end is really unpleasant. Ivan thought of how he was just beaten up by the Lord of all Beasts, and this legendary assassin was watching. He came out to finish the fight at the last moment. Alas, Ivan laughed when he thought about it. When did he become the kind of person who covets fame? It's good that Kangwang City is still there. It's good that the people are still there. When did Kangwang City have a legendary assassin? Ivan, who was a little slow, only noticed this point now. Lumoris looked at the divine power crystal in his hand, thought about it, and threw it to Fran, who fell down. He put away the book in his hand, turned around, and walked away slowly step by step. Now that the crisis has been resolved, he doesn't need to solve the remaining problems. He must return to the Cathedral of Dawn in time. After using Saint Hoyle's manual for too long, his body has been severely eroded by the power of the God of Dawn. Even the body of a legendary strongman cannot withstand the power of the gods for a long time. If he delays for a while, he can consider ascending directly to the kingdom of the god of dawn. Fran took the divine power crystal that Morris threw over without any hesitation. The arcane masters were very interested in these special powers. He wanted to return to the first magic workshop immediately to start researching. But no, the remnants of the Lord of all Beasts could not be dealt with by ordinary people, not even the legendary monk Ivan. If it is not dealt with, the area of Kangyang City will be completely polluted by the evil god's breath, and civilians will not be able to live there at all. At that time, the kingdom will have to ask him to come out to solve it, so it is better to solve it together now. Fran looked at Ivan with some disdain, shook his head, and began to deal with the large pool of black mud and the remaining evil god's breath. Li Si stayed on the roof honestly. After seeing the body of the Lord of all Beasts shattered, his system panel also prompted the information that the incarnation of the Lord of all Beasts died, and the task was completed. Before Li Si could check it carefully, Joyce's figure appeared beside him again, and took Li Si away from Pearl Street through Shadow Jump. After a while, Joyce took Li Si back to the Kane family mansion. In the study room on the second floor, Joyce leaned on the sofa in the study room with a tired look. It seemed that the last blow Joyce had just given to the incarnation of the Lord of all Beasts was not easy, and it consumed a lot of his energy. Uncle Joyce, did you get it? Li Si asked curiously, sitting opposite Joyce. Yeah. Joyce responded, and a black crystal appeared in his hand, but he quickly put it away. This thing is still too dangerous for you now. When you break through the legend, I will give you a part of it. Listening to Joyce's words, Li Si nodded. To be honest, he didn't dare to let him touch the divine power now. There were many players who were blown up and mutated by divine power in the previous life. Moreover, Li Si knew that there was pure divine power in many ruins. When he had enough strength, he would not worry about not having divine power to study. Is the incarnation of the Lord of all Beasts really dead now? Yes, I destroyed the divine power core of his incarnation, and the incarnation must have been destroyed. But this has little impact on the Lord of all Beasts himself. No one in the main world has been able to directly seize his divine position through his incarnation. At most, he will lose some divine power. Yes. Li Si was relieved. He noticed the sacrifices of the strong men of the Church of all Beasts. Now, the Church of all Beasts should have no foothold in Kangyang City. Kangyang City, Fez Street. A luxurious mansion that is obviously a nobleman. In the study, a middle-aged man with a gloomy face stood in front of the window and looked in the direction of the lower city. The tall golden barrier set up by the mage core can be easily seen even here, and the vibration from the ground has stopped for a long time. HMPH. The man's right fist slammed on the windowsill, and traces of blood emerged, but he didn't notice it in his anger. A message was displayed on the communication magic rod placed on the desk next to him. Lord God, it's over. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170 Continental Legend. Kangyang City, Kane Family Mansion. Joyce did not talk much with Li Si. Both of them were exhausted and needed to take a good rest. However, before Li Si left, he felt that Joyce was a little different. Although he hid it well, the feeling of being a little clean was quite special. Perhaps this is the benefit of killing the incarnation of God with his own hands for Joyce. After all, Joyce did not have a system panel and could not directly discover the changes in his body. But this is all good. The strength of the golden thigh may even take a new step. Li Si returned to the bedroom, looking a little tired. Although Li Si did not have the opportunity to intervene in the last battle, after he withstood the mental shock of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts, his spirit was always highly tense, and he observed the situation on the battlefield. It was only after this blood sacrifice riot came to an end that Li Si breathed a sigh of relief. The consequences of the blood sacrifice riot in the lower city this time were much better than in the previous life. Li Si estimated that about 1,000 civilians died in this turmoil, which was much better than the nearly 10,000 casualties in the previous life. Although very tired, Lisi still had things to do. Calling out the system panel, Lisi checked the task information that had just been refreshed. The Lord of 10,000 Beasts, Hunting Incarnation has died. Your gold level task, Blood Battle, has been completed. Task settlement in progress. Settlement completed. Task completion rate 110%, has a great influence on the task. Rewards are being distributed. You have gained 11 million experience points. You have gained the specialty, Red Slaughter. You have gained the special Secret Realm Crystal, Lord of 10,000 Beasts Crusade. Specialty, Red Slaughter, forged by blood and fire. You can draw nutrients for growth from fighting and killing. Your endurance attribute plus 10%, strength attribute plus 10%, all melee skill levels plus 1. This specialty can be improved. The Lord of 10,000 Beasts has his eyes on you. You have gained the status, Angry of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts. Wrath of the Lord of Beasts. You have hindered the Lord of Beasts' divine descent. The Lord of Beasts has remembered your tiny existence. At the same time, your relationship with the Church of Beasts is locked. Deadly enemy, minus 10,000. You are a participant in the fall of the Lord of Beasts, Hunting Incarnation. You obtain the special milestone, Blood Sacrifice Turmoil, special milestone. Blood Sacrifice Turmoil. This major event that occurred in Kangwang City is horrifying. As one of the participants, your name will also be spread all over this continent with the bard. Continental Legend plus 1. Lisi touched his chin. This time he gained a lot. Specialties Red Slaughter God. Ode to Courage. The effect is strong. The special milestone, Blood Sacrifice Turmoil, adds a little Continental Legend to Lisi, which is equivalent to greatly increasing Lisi's daily task experience limit, which is quite powerful. The experience value of 11 million points is okay, but it is just average among all the rewards. Lisi will soon be able to gain a lot of experience points. Although this state, Rage of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts, looks scary, Lisi is not worried. The influence of the Church of 10,000 Beasts in this world is not great. After all, the Lord of 10,000 Beasts is just a weak god, and it is not even ranked in the Church of the Evil God. As for the last special Secret Realm Crystal, Lord of 10,000 Beasts Crusade, it is a bit interesting. Lisi still has 2 Secret Realm Crystals in his hand, namely the bronze level, Dead Tree Demon's Nest, and the gold level, McQuill's Tomb of Death. After thinking about it, Lisi called out the Force System module, set up a new Secret Realm selection page in the White Dove Chamber of Commerce, and bound the 3 Secret Realm crystals in Lisi's hand. Players can directly enter these 3 secret realms from the White Dove Chamber of Commerce at a price, and the method is similar to players entering the public copy Secret Realm. Lisi set the price of the bronze level, Dead Tree Demon's Nest, to 1 gold coin, and the price of the gold level, McQuill's Tomb of Death, is 100 gold coins. As for the special Secret Realm, Battle of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts, Lisi just tried to go in and take a look. This is the battle that officially started after the Lord of 10,000 Beasts descended. The process is similar to the previous battles, but it is also hell level difficult for those players. Without a gold level, it is difficult to survive in the aftermath, let alone pass the dungeon. Lisi also set a symbolic price of 10,000 gold coins for this secret realm, but Lisi gave every player who officially joined the White Dove Chamber of Commerce the opportunity to enter the Battle of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts for free once a month, just as an entertainment dungeon, to open the eyes of those players. After preparing everything, Lisi also stretched and prepared to lie on the bed to rest. After enduring the mental shock of the gods, Lisi's spirit was already quite exhausted. Kangwang City, Feast Palace. King Morton was sitting on the throne in the main hall, and the people below were reporting something to him. Finance Minister Bradford Jid was standing by and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, the losses in the lower city have been roughly counted. There were about 900 civilian casualties, and the Golden Lion Knights, the Royal Mage Corps, and other elite legions lost more than 90 people, most of whom were killed and wounded when the monsters first attacked Pearl Street and Fassé Street. Pearl Street was completely destroyed, and the buildings in Fassé Street and Golden Lily Lane suffered little damage. The arrival of the incarnation of the Lord of all Beasts has brought economic losses of about 2 million Fez gold coins to Kangwang City, most of which are losses in Pearl Street. Hearing the figure of 2 million gold coins, Morton Fez's face did not change at all. As the richest country in the East continent, these losses are not enough to cause serious damage. What makes Morton more worried is the casualties and adverse effects caused by the Lord of all Beasts. After all, Kangwang City is an important transportation hub and commercial capital on the banks of the Jido River. The fact that the evil god descended in the lower city will make some merchants stay away from Kangwang City. It is estimated that it will take at least a year to rebuild Pearl Street and restore logistics operations. Morton tapped the throne with his right hand and asked Beavis, "What's the situation on Pearl Street?" The remains of the evil god have been dealt with by Lord Flame of Judgment, who also used earth magic to fill the deep pit caused by the battle. Currently, the Golden Lion Knights are cooperating with the Dawn Church to treat the wounded around and bury the dead. Well, let those people in the Dawn Church do more. I think they will be happy to have this opportunity. Morton stood up from the throne and paced back and forth slowly. I dare not imagine how much damage it will cause to the kingdom if the Lord of all Beasts really descends. What do you think should be the reward for Li Si? Chapter 171. Li Si's popularity soars. The changes in the lower city of Kangwang City were naturally not ignored by the players. Even when the Lord of all Beasts descended, many players were not afraid of death and rushed to Mingsu Street. Unfortunately, Mingsu Street had been blocked by the Golden Lion Knights and the Royal Mage Corps at that time, and no one was allowed to enter. At that time, many players wanted to force their way in, and they did not hesitate to clash with the kingdom soldiers, but that was a critical moment. What if someone from the Church of All Beasts sneaked in? Under the order of Beavis, those players who wanted to make trouble were all arrested by the Golden Lion Knights, and even the Thorns were killed on the spot. However, there were players who followed Li Si in advance, that is, the 4-member group of Imo Yun, Zua Zua, Liu's Titan and Huo Yanan. They hid aside and were lucky not to be discovered by the first wave of monsters, but their good luck ended here. When the incarnation of the Lord of all Beasts descended, they had no possibility of resistance at all, and they died on the spot with a black screen in front of their eyes. Reborn from the resurrection point set in advance, Mo Yun blinked, a little confused about the situation. How come I was declared dead as soon as I saw that black guy? Without caring about the loss of experience for resurrection, Mo Yun quickly checked her system information. You look directly at the spirit, Lord of all Beasts, hunting incarnation. Starting divine consciousness judgment. Judgment, 1/ divine mental shock. Judgment failed. You did not pass the divine consciousness judgment of the Lord of all Beasts. You are already dead. What the hell? Question mark? Mo Yun looked at the information on the system panel in surprise. So, that black and ugly big guy just now was a spirit? What am I going to explode after looking at it for one more time? It's really outrageous. Mo Yun's mind was a little confused. She didn't feel anything, but it was a little unreal. The spirit or something, shouldn't it be the big boss that appears in the later stage of the game? How come I ran into it just a few days after the server was opened? Shaking her head, Mo Yun continued to look at the system information below. Lord of all Beasts, hunting incarnation is dead. Your silver level mission, hidden crisis in the lower city, has been completed. The mission is being settled. Settlement completed. The mission completion rate 20%. Rewards are being distributed. You get 20,000 experience points and 10 gold coins collected by the White Dove Chamber of Commerce. Your silver level mission, the conspiracy of the Church of 10,000 Beasts, has been completed. The mission is being settled. Settlement completed. The mission completion rate 5%. Rewards are being distributed. You get 15,000 experience points and 15 gold coins collected by the White Dove Chamber of Commerce. What is this? That god just fell like that? Mo Yun looked at the time. For some reason, it took a long time to resurrect this time. Several hours had passed. It only took that little time for that god to descend, which is really embarrassing. However, the reward is still very good. Exclamation mark. Mo Yun contacted the three of them, including Zua, and found that they were also confused and didn't know what happened. Mo Yun had no choice but to log on to the player forum to see what happened. In the discussion post, breaking news, a god has descended in the lower city of Kangwang City. Quite a few players are discussing this event. After all, this is the first major event since the launch of the game Divine Revelation. Game life. Damn. The silver level task I received from Lee Si was directly displayed as completed, and the prompt was that the incarnation of the Lord of all Beasts died. What happened? My completion rate is only a pitiful 5%. White clothed scholar. Urgent. I was caught by the Kangwang city guards and thrown into prison. How can I get out? Hu Yingjun, the assaulter of the Flip Garden. I was on Mingsu Street before, and a large group of monsters came and bit me to death in an instant. I had no ability to resist at all. Pump opening expert. I heard from the kingdom NPC that a god named the Lord of all Beasts descended on Mingsu Street in the lower city, but was quickly dealt with by the kingdom and the Dawn Church. P.S. This god is too weak. After flipping through it, most of them were discussions and speculations without nutrition. Mo Yun thought about it, and after communicating with Zua and others, she edited the entire video of her experience and uploaded it to the player forum. About the whole story of Lee Si Kane and the great event of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts. Mo Yun first attached the video of the whole process, and then attached her thoughts, according to the host's experience in the past 2 days and the prompt information of the silver level task. The order of this major event should be, the Church of 10,000 Beasts conspired to bring down the incarnation of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts in the lower city. Lee Si Kane discovered the abnormality, issued tasks to players, and investigated at the same time, reported the investigation to the kingdom. The kingdom arranged people to deal with the Church of 10,000 Beasts together with Lee Si. The Church of 10,000 Beasts forcibly descended the incarnation of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts. The incarnation of the Lord of 10,000 Beasts was destroyed because I died as soon as I saw the incarnation of the gods later. I don't know what happened later. However, I think Lee Si Kane must have played a very important role in it. Apart from anything else, this handsome guy must be the protagonist. Mo Yun's post was pushed to the top of the charts as soon as it was posted. After all, the last part shows what the Lord of all Beasts looks like. What an ugly god. I want to see the rest. Where's the official? It's so popular. Why don't you release it soon? Damn, I'm so envious. With such a generous task reward, I want to go to Kangwang City to find Lee Si. I want to stick with the handsome guy. The video barrage kept passing by, and the number of people following Mo Yun was also increasing. She was surprised to find that the number of fans had exceeded 100,000. Lord Lee Si, you are my god. Mo Yun was determined to hold on to her thighs, and planned to go to the White Dove Chamber of Commerce tomorrow to wait and see if she could squat on Lee Si. At this time, someone finally discovered the secret realm, Lord of all Beasts Crusade, that Lee Si placed on the White Dove Chamber of Commerce interface, and after trying to enter, posted this information on the forum. Now all the players who have joined the White Dove Guild hurriedly use the free opportunity to experience the secret realm of Lord of all Beasts Crusade. More and more videos about the Lord of all Beasts appeared on the player forum. Wow, if you look at it this way, the Lord of all Beasts is so powerful. I didn't see the end. He died so quickly. If you say so, then aren't the 3 human warriors who appeared more powerful? The one flying should be the legendary wizard Fran Stevens of Kangwang City. The priest is from the Dawn Church. And which force is the remaining bald man from? Huh? Is this legendary wizard the teacher of that Lee Si? So the legendary warriors are so powerful. I love it. Damn. The main plot is also related to Lee Si. He is really the protagonist of the plot. Of course, after all, the players born in Kangwang City are only a small part, and the rest are more envious and jealous. Why hasn't the White Dove Chamber of Commerce opened a branch here? Almost all the players in Kangwang City rushed to the White Dove Chamber of Commerce store and asked to join the Chamber of Commerce. In this process, Lee Si's name was also known by more and more players. As the first game NPC familiar to players, Lee Si's popularity has also risen rapidly under the influence of many factors. So, this NPC named Lee Si should be very important. Chuan Yishi, the president of Kunlun, one of the 4 top game clubs in China, looked at the video Mo Yun posted on the player forum and said to Han Crossing, the captain of the Kunlun professional team, "We still have to contact this anchor named Mo Yun to see if we can get more information." Han Crossing nodded and said that, since Kunlun's home court is in Kangwang City, we have to make good use of this advantage. I always feel that Tingaihu is not writing well about the players, so I'm going to finish it quickly and come to an end. Chapter 172 Potential Points. The next day, at the White Dove Chamber of Commerce on Jedo Street, Li Si came here early in the morning to show his face. With the end of the blood sacrifice riot, his popularity among players has become higher and higher. The White Dove Chamber of Commerce has almost become the most well-known place for all players in Kangwang City. It integrates food and accommodation, and you can learn many professional skills from Li Si. The task rewards are not worse than those of the Mercenary Guild, which also makes players flock to choose to register in the White Dove Chamber of Commerce and get membership. As the players who joined the White Dove Chamber of Commerce gradually gained their first experience by completing tasks, Li Si's skill store was finally able to open. In just half a day in the morning, he had gained hundreds of thousands of experience. This is just the beginning. As the players' levels get better and better, Li Si's experience will continue to increase. The future is promising. Soon Li Si will not have to worry about the experience needed for upgrading, which will greatly speed up Li Si's progress. However, Li Si still invested all the experience he gained recently in improving his skill level. There are 10 skill levels in the game Revelation, from level 1 to level 10, and the experience required for upgrading is 10 to the power of N2. The later you go, the more experience you need. For example, if Li Si wants to upgrade Fireball to level 10, he needs 10 to the power of 10 to 2, which is 1e experience. But at the same time, the maximum level of all skills is level 10, but it does not mean that you cannot continue to break through. After that, there are 2 main ways to improve the skill level. The first is the effects of various skills, talents, and specialties, which can break through the skill level limit. For example, Li Si's Assassin Professional Specialty, Crown of Shadow. The final effect description is, all skill levels related to the Shadow Plane +3. This effect can break through the level limit, that is, when Li Si uses skills such as Shadow Jump and Shadow Assault. If Li Si has already reached level 10, then these skills will be directly upgraded to level 13. Therefore, the effects that break through the skill level limit are very precious and powerful. The second method is to break through the skill limit by using potential points. Potential points are a scarcer resource than free attribute points. Li Si now only has 10 points when he breaks through the silver rank. After the player's skill level reaches level 10, potential points can be used to break through the level cap. Take the mage skill as an example. Depending on the skill level, it takes 1 potential point to break through to level 11 for a 1-ring spell, and 10 potential points to break through to level 12. It takes 9 potential points to break through to level 11 for a 9-ring spell, and 90 potential points to break through to level 12. In addition, potential points can only be obtained from some world quests, except for the breakthrough, so it is quite difficult to get them. However, this has no effect on many players in the previous life. After all, except for some professional players, few people can upgrade a skill to level 10, and the potential points in the hands of many players are useless. You should know that it takes more than 100 million experience points to upgrade a skill to level 10, which is a very exaggerated number. When Li Si just broke through the gold rank in his previous life, the experience required for each level upgrade was only a little over 10 million. However, the effect of each skill after breaking through to level 10 is also quite powerful. This is the most effective way to improve combat power besides improving the level of the game character. However, for the mage profession, high-ring spells are not necessarily stronger than low-ring spells, except for some specific spells, such as Fireball and Multiple Fireball. The power of the two is increasing. High-ring spells are more reflected in achieving more effects and creating more incredible miracles. Moreover, even the well-known spells such as the 9-ring spells, Meteor Explosion, and Finger of Death, which are famous for their power, also require more preparation time and mana consumption. In actual combat, it is quite difficult to successfully release them without the help of teammates. The enemy is not a fool, and he has to wait until you successfully transform before taking action. Therefore, in the previous life, there were some practical players who only improved various small skills and forcibly crushed and controlled the opponent through the connection of small skills. Lee Si shook his head. He had gained so much experience recently, which seemed to be a lot, but it was not enough to improve the blue ball technique to level 10. It was far from enough. However, with so many players working as laborers for him, he could get the experience he needed by harvesting them regularly. Lee Si could spend more time on arcane research. At most, he could teach the players some original arcane skills. As for whether it is suitable for players to use, Lee Si said that, if you give me 100 million experience points, it is not impossible to consider customizing it for you. The problem now is that Lee Si still needs to come in person to teach the players skills. Although he does not need to teach them one by one, the players can talk to Lee Si and click to learn in the system, but Lee Si is also needed to stay here as a dialogue point. Lee Si was thinking about whether he could get a few high level memory balls from Flame of Judgment. By saving the skill knowledge in the memory ball, the player can directly learn it through the faction interface, and Lee Si only needs to update the skill knowledge in it regularly. Well, I will go back to the first magic workshop. After all, high level goods like memory balls are usually very rare. Lee Si estimated that they might be in the teacher and the kingdom's treasury. Just as Lee Si was thinking about these things, a voice sounded not far away. Lee Si. A familiar voice. Lee Si turned around. Sure enough, it was that guy Yazan. What's the matter? How did you know I was here? Lee Si was a little curious. Why would Yazan come to him at this time? If you have something to do, hurry up and come back with me. Yazan seemed a little anxious and said hurriedly. This shouldn't be the case. Yazan is usually quite steady. Let's go. We'll talk on the way. Yazan dragged Lee Si out and got on the carriage. A bunch of players could only watch Lee Si, the thigh, being robbed like this. However, most of the players have learned skills, and Lee Si has almost harvested all the players in Kangwang City, and there are not many left. Mo Yun felt a little regretful. She circled in front of Lee Si several times this morning, but she didn't see any tasks triggered, so she could only go to work honestly. Lee Si naturally saw Mo Yun's acquaintances, but he didn't pay attention to them. He was not a nanny, so he just had to work hard. Tell me, what's the matter? Lee Si asked curiously, after sitting firmly in the carriage and looking at the direction that seemed to be his home. Well, Yazan felt that it was not appropriate for him to say it, but he still felt that he had to reveal something. My father came to see you and needs to communicate with you about something. It was His Majesty the King's intention about tomorrow's holy festival. Hearing Yazan's cryptic meaning, Lee Si became more curious. Tomorrow's holy festival? What's going on? Did the king know about the conspiracy of the second Prince Yatan? Chapter 173 conferred the title of Marquis. Fitz Street, the Kane family mansion. Lee Si and Yazan hurried back in a carriage and saw Duke Hard sitting in his reception room. Joyce was not accompanying him. It seemed that after Lee Si knew his identity, he gradually stopped acting like a butler. Another servant stood by. Fuxi drank his tea slowly and said to Lee Si with a smile, I'm back. I thought you would be at home this morning, but I didn't expect to be empty-handed. There's a little matter at the White Dove Chamber of Commerce, Lord Ducard. Lee Si replied politely and sat down on the sofa opposite Fuxi. Don't be so polite. Since you and Yazan are good friends, call me uncle. Why does it feel like Ducard's attitude is better than last time? Lee Si was a little curious, but he still nodded and said, hello, Uncle Hard. I wonder if you came to see me this time for something? Haha, to be honest, it's really a big deal. Fuxi put down the teacup and his face became a little serious. Lee Si, you know that the kingdom will hold the sacrifice festival in the Triumphal Square tomorrow. I know. Lee Si nodded. This is one of the most important festivals in Kangwang City every year. Everyone living in Kangwang City will enjoy the celebrations in these few days. Well, there are two main things. First, the matter of the Church of 10,000 Beasts made His Majesty the King very angry. Fuchsis glanced at Lisi inexplicably and then said, very angry, the sacrifice festival is just a few days away. The Church of 10,000 Beasts actually dared to invite the incarnation of the evil god at this time. They all deserve to die. Fortunately, Lisi noticed the plan of the Church of 10,000 Beasts in advance this time, otherwise the Lord of 10,000 Beasts would have successfully descended his incarnation in the lower city of Kangwang City, and the damage to Kangwang City would have been even more serious. Lisi nodded. He knew this. In the previous life, the destruction of the lower city by the Lord of 10,000 Beasts was not ordinary. Even the kingdom's external wars at that time stagnated for a period of time. Therefore, His Majesty the King has strictly ordered to thoroughly investigate the dynamics of these evil god churches in Kangwang City and resolutely eliminate all these scums. His Majesty the King also asked me to tell you that, if there is any similar information, please tell the kingdom in time. Fuchsis's expression was quite solemn, and he seemed to be very angry about the conspiracy of the 10,000 Beasts Church. Lisi had no idea, and could only continue to nod. After saying so much, it would be better to pay him off the reward this time. The kingdom would not want to just express condolences. By the way, if it is just for this matter, does it need to let Duke Hader go there in person so solemnly? As if guessing what Lisi was thinking, Duke Hader smiled and continued, this is a small matter, the main thing is the second one. Do you know the process of the holy festival? Huh? Lisi was a little confused about what Fuchsis meant. Fuchsis smiled and explained to Lisi, generally speaking, after the initial sacrifice and blessing ceremony, His Majesty the King will give a speech, and will confer new nobles and promote titles. Oh. Lisi suddenly became alert. He knew that during the sacrifice festival, His Majesty the King would confer titles on new nobles, and there would also be a ceremony for the promotion of some court nobles. This was also the reason why the kingdom required all nobles in Kangwang City to be present at the sacrifice festival. Previously, there was also a process of depriving the titles of guilty nobles, but in order to encourage civilians to serve the kingdom, this part was cancelled by the current king. So when Duke had came to him at this time, Yazan also hinted that it was His Majesty's intention. Mod Fuchsis smiled and said, in fact, the last time you were received by His Majesty the King, His Majesty the King wanted to confer you the title of Court Earl. After all, you saved Princess Taiya's life, but I didn't expect that before the sacrifice festival, you would make such a great contribution to the kingdom. Lisi did not doubt what Fuchsis said. These are just excuses. Having merit is only one of the prerequisites. It mainly depends on the thoughts of the superiors. Lisi's teacher is the Flame of Judgment. His Majesty the King is eager to raise Lisi's title as soon as possible so that he can be more closely connected with the Kingdom of Feast. It can be said that he is promoted on time and there is no idea of suppressing him. Lisi had ignored this situation before. In addition to the matter of the Church of All Beasts this time, Lisi has made great contributions to the kingdom. So, His Majesty the King has decided to confer you the title of Marquis of Arcane on tomorrow's holy festival. Directly cross-level conferring. His Majesty the King is so bold, Lisi thought to himself, and was also a little surprised. Although this Marquis title should still be a court noble, without a real territory, it is also quite good. Not to mention that the annual royal support money has increased a lot. Lisi thinks that there should also be new legendary rewards, which is still very good. Thank you, Your Majesty Morton, for your kindness. Lisi nodded and said respectfully, anyway, I got the advantage, so it doesn't matter if I have a better attitude. Haha. Fuchsis smiled gently and seemed to say unintentionally, His Majesty Morton also specifically told me to let you, Lisi, do more. If you want to marry Her Royal Highness the Princess, the Duke is more suitable. Hiss, what are you talking about, old man? Oh, His Majesty the King said it, that's fine. Lisi scratched his head, he really didn't think of this. Seeing that Lisi heard it, Fuchsis said no more. You should prepare yourself. His Majesty the King will be the first to confer the title on you at the Holy Sacrifice Festival tomorrow, so be mentally prepared. Dress formally, but you don't need to do anything else. The kingdom will prepare it. I understand. Lisi nodded. Anyway, he didn't need to prepare it. The maid Rossi would arrange it. Seeing that Fuxi had nothing to tell him, Li Si thought for a while and asked, "Uncle, I have something to ask you. What do you say? What does the kingdom plan to do with the area of Mingzu Street?" Li Si asked calmly. "Well, the kingdom is also in a headache. Reconstruction will cost the kingdom a lot of resources. Can I buy that piece of land?" "Huh? What do you want to buy there? The houses are destroyed?" Fuxis asked in confusion. "Because this world is very vast, the value of land here is not very high. In the city, unless it is a prime location like Feast Street, the value of the land is more about the houses on it. Prepared for the Chamber of Commerce, the location is good." Li Si said so. "Anyway, as long as he takes it, he will make a lot of money. The location of Mingzu Street in the lower city is quite convenient, but the initial investment is relatively large." "Okay, I'll keep an eye on it for you," Fuxis said, not really caring. Anyway, the great nobles in Kangwang City have their own sphere of influence, and Mingzu Street is just vacant. Li Si is about to become a member of the great nobles, so it's just right for him. Chapter 174 6 Ring Arcane, Li Si's Blue Flame Demon Sword. The first magic workshop at the Royal School of Magic of Fez. After hearing the news from Duke Hader that he would soon be canonized as a Marquis by the kingdom, Li Si was a little excited for a moment, but soon calmed down. After all, this was more of a manifestation of honor. Li Si's target was the teacher of Flame of Judgment. The kingdom was eager to canonize him as a real duke, but Fran refused. For legendary mages, territories are often not important, and they are too lazy to care about those things. It's still a long way to go. So after sending Duke Hader away, Li Si went directly to the first magic workshop. There have been a lot of things to do recently. Not only do I have to prepare for the players' affairs, but I also have to learn assassin professional skills from Joyce. So Li Si's arcane research progress has also slowed down a bit. However, Li Si has a feeling that as his research deepens, he will develop new exclusive arcane. The last time I had this feeling was when I developed the blue ball technique. Therefore, Li Si did not delay his visit to the first magic workshop this time. After taking a few advanced memory balls from teacher Fran's warehouse, he continued to study arcane in the laboratory. Li Si has recently successfully extracted some magic patterns of the blue flame from the 3-ring arcane blue ball technique. Recently, he is trying to combine it with a warrior's martial arts to create a skill that can enjoy the dual attribute bonus of intelligence and strength at the same time. Li Si started to develop this skill by analyzing the core skill of the magic swordsman. Magic sword. As a relatively special profession, the magic swordsman is different from the mage and the warrior. It enjoys 1.5 times the attribute correction of intelligence and strength attributes. It is one of the few professions that develops dual attributes at the same time. Magic sword is the most important and core skill of the magic swordsman, and it is also the means for the magic swordsman to play the advantage of dual attribute correction and bonus. The principle of magic sword is to enchant the element on the blade used by the magic swordsman and attack the enemy through different magic swordsman exclusive combat skills. The elemental enchantment damage increase enjoys the intelligence attribute bonus, and the magic swordsman exclusive combat skills enjoy the strength attribute bonus. Therefore, the magic swordsman can display a variety of fighting styles and spellcasting abilities similar to those of a mage in battle, and can also enjoy the strong frontal melee ability of a warrior. Although the two aspects are not particularly outstanding, the magic swordsman profession is extremely universal in battle and has few weaknesses, so the magic swordsman is also one of the most popular professions among players. Li Si has been able to achieve the effect of enchanting weapons similar to the magic swordsman's magic sword skill, but Li Si is not satisfied with that alone. Because there is no professional expertise of the magic swordsman, elemental enchantment alone cannot fully play the advantages of the magic swordsman's fighting style, and Li Si must start from other aspects. Therefore, Li Si thought of using special enchantments to increase the lethality. And now Li Si's best special element method is actually the special blue flame in blue ball technique. That special flame is quite easy for Li Si to use, and it is still his best output method even now. It's not that Li Si doesn't know other special methods with stronger power. The legendary wizard Fran alone taught Li Si a lot of special elemental techniques. Lee Sin even memorized the magic pattern combination of the special method, Flame of Judgment, that Fran Stevens was famous for at the time, but he can't use it now. However, after Lee Sin's careful consideration and Fran's previous advice, Lee Sin decided to take his own path. After all, as a pure arcane master, only the arcane that suits him best is the strongest. Draw knowledge from other spells and magic patterns, improve your own foundation, and use it as nourishment to bloom your own arcane. This is the right way. Try to insert the blue flame magic pattern into the cornerstone magic pattern of the magic pattern array. Lee Sin frowned and muttered to himself, and then quickly shook his head. No, then the magic pattern balance that we have managed to maintain with great difficulty will be broken. It is not a one-time spell, and it will easily collapse if the stability is too poor. Add a few more stable magic patterns to the cornerstone magic pattern. It doesn't seem to work either. It's too complicated, and the power will be weakened. Lee Sin had a headache. He was now on a different path from those arcane players in his previous life. He built a magic pattern array for his own arcane magic with more knowledge than trying his luck with random magic pattern arrays. But although he was determined to develop new arcane magic in this way, he encountered quite a lot of troubles and difficulties in the process. He even spent no less energy and time than those arcane players who gambled on their luck. However, the dawn of success sometimes appears inadvertently. During Lee Sin's countless experiments and adjustments, the fine steel sword in front of him suddenly flashed a faint blue light, and the blue flame slowly spread from the hilt of the sword, and finally the whole sword was shrouded by the faint blue flame. Success. Lee Sin raised his eyebrows, and then directly stroked the blade with the blue flame. Because this was a spell cast by Lee Sin himself, it would not cause any harm to him. Closing his eyes and feeling it carefully, Lee Sin murmured, "No, the flame is too scattered. It looks exaggerated, but the power is a little insufficient. It still needs to be adjusted. How can I make the flame more condensed?" After many experiments, Lee Sin finally condensed the blue flame on the blade to only a thin layer of dark blue halo attached to the blade by adding the compression magic pattern. Hey, it seems that adding too many magic patterns is a bit cumbersome, but this is the only way now. Lee Sin still felt a little regretful, but this is the best Lee Sin can do now. If he wants to improve, he can only try again by mastering higher level knowledge and abilities. You have successfully created a new spell. You have mastered the exclusive arcane magic sword, nameable, after Lee Sin stabilized the new arcane. The system's information prompt also came late. Lee Sin thought about it and named this new arcane as Lee Sin's Blue Flame Sword, in the same way as Flame of Judgment. Naming successfully. You have mastered the exclusive 6-ring arcane, Lee Sin's Blue Flame Sword. Lee Sin's Blue Flame Sword, 6-ring arcane, a brand new arcane created by the Arcanist Lee Sin. After using this arcane, the user's weapon can be given the Blue Flame state. In this state, any target damaged by the weapon will be inflicted with the negative effect of Eternal Blue Flame, causing 100 plus 50% of the intelligence attribute damage per second, reducing the target's physical defense and magic resistance by 30%. This effect will not be replaced by Dispel, Purification, Treatment and other effects with a rank lower than the 7th rank. Right square bracket. Chapter 175, Holy Day Celebration. October 10th, 640 of the Dawn Calendar, the Holy Festival of the Kingdom of Fez. With the first ray of morning light shining on the Kangwang city, the busy people had already gotten up and were preparing for today's holy festival. It seemed that, in order to dilute the impact of the blood sacrifice turmoil a few days ago, the Kingdom of Fez also spent a lot of effort on this holy festival. This time, the main streets of Kangwang City were filled with food and wine, which were provided to the people for free. Although it was just ordinary wine and food, it was enough for the people who had worked hard for more than half a year to enjoy it. Of course, on the day of the holy festival, the streets were full of acrobatic artists, small vendors selling food and special products, and all kinds of happy people were flowing in the streets and alleys. On the triumphal square, the white lily of the valley representing the Kingdom of Fez covered the perimeter of the square, and the waiters in golden and white armor were busy making the final preparations before the festival. The players were the same. They had only been in this world for a few days, and had just begun to understand the city of Kangwang City. Everything about the holy festival was very new to them. Of course, the most important thing is that they all received tasks from the system today. Main quest, a new beginning, sacrifice festival celebration. Quest requirements, go to the triumphal square of Kangwang City and watch the sacrifice festival celebration of the kingdom of Fez. Quest reward, 1000 experience points. Wow, today is actually a celebration. Mo Yun said excitedly as he looked at the crowded crowds on both sides of the street. It's okay, but it does feel different from where we are. Claw nodded and said, holding a glass of white foam in his hand, exuding the aroma of newly brewed malt. Hey, I just heard from those NPCs that the king and all the nobles will attend the sacrifice festival celebration in the triumphal square. Mo Yun hugged Claw. These days, the two of them have been working together to complete tasks, and they can be considered good game friends. So what, anyway, we can't get in. Claw was a little strange. To be honest, Mo Yun was a good girl, but she was a little careless. Sometimes he couldn't keep up with her brain circuit. Will Lee Si show up? Mo Yun was so excited that his eyes were full of stars. So what if he shows up? I've heard you say Lee Si every day these past 2 days. I'm tired of hearing him. Zua was speechless. This girl must be obsessed. But he's so handsome. Mo Yun nodded firmly. Ordinary handsome guys are not in her eyes. Vulgar. Zua took a sip of the beer in his hand. The slightly bitter beer filled his mouth. He was very interested in the special experience of eating and resting in the game these days. Mo Yun rolled his eyes and said disdainfully, you are elegant. Who is the person who takes the initiative to wait for Lee Si with me every day? Ahem, I was doing it for the hidden mission. Zua choked and retorted with a flushed face. Besides, I'm a professional player. I was exploring the game's strategy. Yes, the former professional player said so. XXXXX early in the morning, Lee Si was picked up by the maid Rosie and dressed up. Lee Si, who had just developed a new arcane yesterday, was a little excited. He stayed up half a night in the first magic workshop and went home to sleep in the second half of the night. At this time, Lee Si, who looked sleepy, cast a wake up spell on himself. After all, Duke had came to give him instructions yesterday, so he should not be late. Dressed in the light golden dress of a court viscount, Lee Si had passed the inspection of the guards around the triumphal square and walked towards the center of the square. I don't know if it was an illusion, but Lee Si seemed to hear someone calling his name. Looking at the obviously elite soldiers and the golden lion knights standing solemnly on tall horses not far away, Lee Si nodded. From this point of view, the defense of the kingdom at the sacrifice festival is still quite strict. After all, this is one of the few times a year that His Majesty the King attends the scene, and it is also the only opportunity for assassins to assassinate. After all, His Majesty the King usually stays in the palace protected by many detection and protection arrays. Thinking about it this way, it is indeed outrageous that the assassin in the previous life could sneak into the sacrifice festival. It's not that the teammates are not strong, but there is a traitor in the team. Lee Si smiled and looked at the second Prince Jatan, who seemed to be arranging the celebration not far away. I wonder what surprise this prince can bring to me today. Think about when I was just reborn in this world a few months ago. I was still worried about the future of being assassinated. Now, I stand here and let you do it. Shadow amulet in the left hand, teleportation ring in the right hand. Who can kill me? It seems a bit crazy. There are still 2 people in the city who can kill me. Lee Si touched his chin. Lee Si even prepared a big gift for the respected Prince Jatan, hoping that he would like it. Jatan, who was communicating with the commander of the guards, felt a sudden chill for no reason. He turned his head and saw Lee Si staring at him with a smile. Jatan quickly turned around and avoided Lee Si's sight. After all, the plan later almost gambled everything he had. What he was most worried about now was Lee Si, the unstable factor. It should be okay. Obviously, he has never made a move on Lee Si since then. Jatan comforted himself in his heart, but the shadow of uneasiness began to spread from the bottom of his heart. There was a commotion, and Lee Si opened his eyes. It turned out that the sacrifice festival was about to begin, and His Majesty the King was about to appear. To be honest, Lee Si was quite annoyed by these formal celebration ceremonies when he was in school in his previous life. It was a bit of a waste of life. Just now, under the guidance of the waiter, Lee Si found his position, and he was a little curious. It was different from the location where Viscount Kane was assassinated in the game in his previous life. It was closer to the center of the sacrificial site, which was where His Majesty the King was. Was this specially arranged for the canonization ceremony later, or? However, the waiting time was a bit too long. Lee Si closed his eyes and calculated the new arcane model in his mind. After creating the exclusive arcane of Lee Si's blue flame demon sword, Lee Si felt as if he had broken through a bottleneck, and new inspirations and ideas kept pouring out. This is just a skill with dual attribute bonuses of intelligence and strength. Lee Si's goal is an arcane with all attribute bonuses. Silence. A majestic and loud voice sounded, suppressing the whispers of the nobles at the center of the Holy Sacrifice Festival. Lee Si recognized that it was the voice of Duke Ada, and it must be the effect of some magic props. All the nobles present returned to their seats and stood obediently. Today, only His Majesty the King is qualified to sit on the throne. All other nobles, regardless of their status, have no place and can only stand. The voice of Duke Ada sounded again. Please come in, His Majesty Morton Feast. The salute sounded, and the soldiers of the Golden Lion Knights standing around drew their swords and stood upright in front of their chests to salute. Lee Si was also shocked. The Holy Sacrifice Festival celebration has begun. After learning from the pain, Shenqi was busy piling up player characters before, and I spent less time on personal descriptions. Now I will start to redescribe them. I will work hard. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.